I had to ask myself that because I'm like, what is that? And then none of these other ones that I think get the extra statement and we're giving it SNC too. Again, I'm trying to look at this. Emotional.
Well, I'm looking at that's hard to do.
It is.
And very hard to do.
Right. Yes, sir.
You know, I appreciate some of those numbers and stuff that are reimbursement for medical. Students are about 60%.
No, what's in there? Nice time.
Well, that is something somebody else would have to.
April 20th, 2023.
Seeing that 6:30, we are going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please take roll.
I'm always ready.
Samuel Newton.
Here.
Luann Hayes.
Here.
Casey Anthony.
Present.
William Hadley.
Here.
Jim Hart.
Present.
Kurt Copeland.
Present.
Adam Modero.
Here.
Larry Jogers.
Here.
Brooke Deininger. Scott Helms.
Present.
Jackie DeMeester.
Here.
Nicole Baker.
Present.
Steve Furick.
Present.
Tim Whalen.
Here.
Great,
14 present, 1 absent.
thank you. Mr. Frick, would you be so kind as to lead us in prayer, and Ms. Hayes, the pledge?
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for each of the people gathered here tonight. We thank you for concerns. We thank you for the thought that's going in. We ask that you would impart and that we all go home in a safe and secure manner. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
By Mr. Copeland, is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Bush, is there any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor?
my name's up there.
Oh, sorry, I apologize, Ms. Anthony. Go ahead.
I would like to remove executive session and action out of executive session with the approval of letter of intent.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
By Mr. Hart. Discussion?
Can I start?
Absolutely.
The reason for my motion to remove it is based on the information that we've received regarding the need for a referendum to sell the nursing home. I know that there was an opinion put out about this in 2019, but I think that more information has come forward that would be worthy of investigation before we move any further along with the potential sale of Stephenson Nursing Center.
Okay. Anyone else? Ms. Hayes?
In regards to that referendum, do we have any other information regarding that from our state's attorney?
I can speak to this issue, and I certainly appreciate the folks who reached out to us in advance and provided us with the newspaper clippings that they provided us with. I don't know how conversant everyone is in this, so I will kind of start with a little bit of a summary, and I think I can kind of address this issue. So there's a statute, and that deals with the establishment and maintenance of a nursing home. That's the title of the statute. And in that statute, there's a paragraph about closing or leasing a nursing home. And that statute does say, as indicated by the opponents of the sale of Walnut Acres, that, if the home was erected after a referendum approved by the voters of the county, it shall not be sold or disposed of except after referendum approval thereof by a majority of the voters of the county therein. The Stephenson County Nursing Home has had a long history in Stephenson County. It began as a poor farm, and then in 1961, the county board approved the process of turning the county poor farm into a state-licensed Benjamin Stephenson Nursing Home. Give or take 9 years later, with their license in peril, the board approved a referendum to issue bonds. The proceeds of those bonds would be used to build a new building to house the nursing home. The state extended the license, and to the best of my knowledge, from 1961 to now, there's been no significant lapse in the license. Some of the documentation around the building of the new building to house the nursing home referred to erecting a nursing home. So that's the same word that was used in the statute, and that's, I think, kind of the crux of our, the disagreement between the proponents and opponents here. From the use of that word, the opponents of the sale of the nursing home have formed the belief that a referendum is necessary to sell the nursing home. Since I've received those emails, I've thought through it and kind of prepared an opinion on that issue. In my opinion, the resolution of that issue requires the definition of two words. One, nursing home, and two, erect. In defining nursing home, we have to determine whether the nursing home is the building where the majority of the activities take place, or whether it's the combination of legal entitlements and people that allow the work to lawfully occur. In other words, is the nursing home the building, or is the nursing home the legal organization or legal entity? This is the easier of the two definitions, I think, for us to work through. I believe both the proponents and opponents of the sale of the nursing home would have to agree that the nursing home is the legal entity, not the building. Let me give you two examples which I think show why that is the better definition. First, imagine Warren Buffett left his estate to Stephenson County, and the county board wanted to buy FHN as the new home of Walnut Acres. Would anyone argue that by expanding and improving the facilities that Walnut Acres was being closed? I don't think that they would. They would say, well, Walnut Acres is Walnut Acres, it's just changed addresses. Conversely, if the county fired all of the staff at the nursing home, relocated all of the patients, but left the building open, would anyone say that the nursing home remained open? I don't think that they would, even if the building was open. So I think that both the proponents and opponents can agree that the nursing home is the legal entity and not the building. With that definition in mind, we can look at the second definition that's important, and that is erect, which is used in the statute. It was also used, I believe, in the referendum to take on debt to build a new building in which to house the nursing home. I looked for Illinois sources of law defining this term in this context. I was unable to locate any, and I don't think there is any. It wasn't a short search. I don't think it's a esoteric enough issue that there just isn't going to be cases on it. So I did the next best thing. I went to Black's Law Dictionary and looked up erect. Black's Law Dictionary has two definitions of the meaning of the word erect. The first definition is to construct. The second definition is to establish. So now we have to figure out, when in that statute they said to erect a nursing home, did they mean to construct, which certainly could be fairly interpreted as to build, or did they mean to establish, meaning beginning the nursing home, which I think the evidence took place in 1961. So let's figure it out. If we agree that a nursing home is a legal entity rather than the building that houses that legal entity, then a legal entity is established, not constructed. Since the statute relates to the legal entity, it would be reasonable to interpret erected to mean established, which again took place in 1961 not in 1970 or 71. Second, the statute at issue discusses the opening of a nursing home, the closing of a nursing home, and it discusses funding a nursing home through the passage of referendums. It does not discuss issuing bonds to raise money to build the necessary buildings. It's consistent with the remaining language of the statute to interpret erect as meaning established, because that's what the rest of the statute relates to. And there is a degree of rational symmetry to the idea that the nursing home could only be closed by the entity who opened it, whether that be the voters or their representatives. Finally, the benefit of interpreting erect to mean establish rather than construct is that an organization can only really be established once. But if by construction you mean actual physical construction like building, it can be constructed, destructed, remodeled, and moved as many times as the people running it have the resources and will to do. Well, why is that problematic? Because if you're interpreting erect to construct, then you have to pick which construction would count. Is it the 1971 referendum or any of the subsequent county board approved construction since? It could be either or both or neither. If you interpret it that way, the statute doesn't answer the question that it exists to answer, which is, what is the process that could be used to close or sell the nursing home, which I think is fairly interpreted to be a legal entity. So for that reason, I think erect, even though it was used in the language of the referendum, in this case, in this statute, means to establish, which took place in 1961, not when buildings were built in the early 1970s. So that's my thought on the issue.
Thank you. Mr. Newton.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman, for counselor. I don't think it takes a PhD to realize that back in the year that they established it, they were talking about the building that's out there currently. And so if this was a debate class or a high-powered court case, bravo, but the courthouse is the nursing home is the nursing home. And so we've talked about it many times about putting it on the ballot. The only thing that came up was whether it was binding or non-binding. And so if that's the question, then we should determine if it's binding or non-binding, as has been stated by a number of board members and before, and that's where we should go. I don't think making it complicated and going way over everybody's head is necessary. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hadley.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you. Testing 1, 2, 3. It's not on.
Push the button in the middle.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Our legal counsel. So my question, a couple of questions is that if this went to, well, number one, if this went to court, would you be handling this, or excuse me, this case yourself?
I serve at the pleasure of the county and would certainly work with the county leadership to ensure the best possible legal representation. Frankly, given my staffing levels and other considerations, I doubt that would be me. But if that's what I was called upon to do, I would do it.
And if this is in court, do you see this, under your opinion, you say we can move forward on the sale of the nursing home or not move forward on the sale of the nursing home?
Well, I'm going to interpret your question to mean, do I think that we would win a lawsuit? Is that kind of what you're asking? Okay.
Yes.
I mean, it's a complicated issue. I believe that the strongest side of the argument is as I've set forth here today. No one can, with 100% certainty, predict the outcome of any lawsuit.
So saying that, I think that we should put things on hold till we really look into this, and maybe you can even get a UCCI opinion also. They have been very good down in Springfield, giving us opinions. So, and it's free to the county. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you take roll on?
I have a question.
You need to push your button, Mr. Chair, if you wish to be recognized.
Yeah, I got them all. They're all pushed.
You're on.
Okay. Am I on? Okay. I can't hear myself.
He said it different.
Oh, yes. Yep, you're right. My apologies. Go ahead. Try now.
Okay. There I am, I think. Mr. Larson, was there ever a period between the initial nursing home being occupied and between the second structure being erected?
The county board approved the licensing procedure in 1961. The other structure was built in the early 70s. So presumably the entire period between 1961 and when that new building was built was a period between when, and then that's assuming that you are starting the nursing home at 1961 when it became state licensed, and before that when it had kind of other functions. I mean, that period of time would be a period of time between when it was established and when the new building was built.
So the first year that we had a license for a nursing home was 1961?
Yes.
And we constructed this current building in 1970?
Well, the referendum was in 1970. I'm sure it took some period of time, probably 1971, before that building was opened.
And we don't know if there was ever a lapse in between the two buildings where we weren't operational.
Well, I don't know what you mean by lapse, but there is a news article that indicates that it was licensed during that entire time.
So the original license we had remained throughout that period and is the same license that's been renewed subsequently?
Well, the news article I read indicated that, well, there were a number of news articles relating to it, which I think everyone's been sent. Well, actually, I've probably got it here. I can read you what it says, and you'll know what I know. All right, it says, this is from a news article, March 18th, 1970. It says, "Boy, are we tickled," he said, letting the contract satisfied the state's requirement for extending the present license until the new home is opened. Obviously, that's in the context of a greater argument talking about a greater article talking about the referendum for the bonds to construct the 96-bed county nursing home.
What was the first building? Does anybody know, or how that came to be?
I'm sorry, what?
Could you speak up, Mr. Hart?
What was the first building? Was it something that had been constructed specifically for that purpose, or?
Well, there were a number of buildings over the years, particularly when it was like a poor farm, which also was kind of like a mental health place for a period of time. I think that burned down and they rebuilt that, and so I don't know.
I'm just trying to get a handle on, and you know, I'm a little bit leery of using articles in a local paper as opposed to what our archives and records are here in the county. It sounds like we're pinning a lot of this on what some local papers had written. Not to disparage the local media, and I know no one's going to do that, but I would be more comfortable if I knew what our records were and what the minutes were, and something more than the local the local newspaper.
Anything else, Mr. Hart?
Not at this time, no.
Any other discussion on the amendment to remove the executive session and the action out of executive session? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take roll?
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
Yes.
Kurt Copeland.
No.
Adam Modero.
Yes.
Larry Jogers.
No.
Scott Helms.
No.
Jackie DeMeester.
No.
Nicole Baker.
No.
Steve Frick.
No.
Tim Whalen.
No.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
Samuel Newton.
Aye.
Luann Hayes.
No.
Six A, 8 nay. Motion fails.
Okay, so we're back to the original motion and second.
I have an amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to move executive session and action out of executive session under the Helios update.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
And Mr. Hart, is there any discussion on that motion?
Yes, the reason is that it makes sense that once we get their update, that we go into executive session and everything's fresh to us at that time. Plus, it gives a chance at the end of the meeting for people to make public comment because executive session was after public comment. That's all I have.
Any other discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, please take roll on the amendment to move executive session and action out of executive session after the Helios updates and before action items and information from standing committees.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
Yes.
Kurt Copeland.
Yes.
Adam Modero.
Aye.
Larry Jogers.
No.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester.
No.
Nicole Baker.
Aye.
Steve Frick.
Yes.
Tim Whalen.
Yes.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
Samuel Newton.
Aye.
Luann Hayes.
Aye.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
Twelve A, 2 nay. Motion carries.
Okay, again, we are back to the original motion and second to approve the agenda as amended. Any other discussion on the agenda? Mr. Jogers?
Make a motion on the consent agenda. Would that be appropriate now, or should I wait?
No, we gotta vote on the.
We have to get to that first, so unless, okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there any items that any board member would like to remove?
Yes.
Mr. Jogers.
I would like to move the nursing claims in the amount of $219,719.09.
You're asking to remove that?
Yeah, from the consent agenda, and
Okay.
add that they would be paid pending funding availability and after review by the finance committee.
Okay, so first we're just going to remove it, then we'll come back and we'll discuss the items. Anyone else have anything else they want to remove? Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please read the consent agenda?
Approval of March 16, 2023 minutes. Approval of April 17, 2023 minutes. All claims on the clerk's desk to the proper committees without reading.
Okay. All those in favor of the consent agenda, I'm sorry, is there a motion?
We didn't have a
Second.
second.
I'm sorry.
I will second.
Thank you. My apologies. Any discussion on the consent agenda other than the nursing claims?
Does that include the minutes from our special meeting?
They are included in the consent agenda, yes.
I'd like to make a motion to amend those to reflect my votes in that special meeting.
Okay, is there a second to Mr. Hart's amendment to the minutes for the special meeting? I'm sorry, who seconded? Mr. Whalen. Any discussion on that? Mr. Hart, would you repeat what your amendment to the minutes, what you'd like it to reflect, please?
I'd like the minutes to reflect my votes, which were yes on all items in the special meeting. Apparently, there was some feedback from a computer that blotted some of that out.
Okay, very good. All those in favor of Mr. Hart's amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the consent agenda except for removing nursing claims. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor of the consent, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, would you take a roll on the consent agenda? I apologize.
Larry Jokers,
Yes.
Scott Helms,
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester,
Aye.
Nicole Baker,
Aye.
Steve Frick,
Yes.
Tim Whalen,
Yes.
Ronnie Bush,
Yes.
Samuel Newton,
Aye.
Luann Hayes,
Aye.
Casey Anthony,
Aye.
William Hadley,
Yes.
Jim Hart,
Yes.
Kurt Copeland,
Yes.
Adam Otero.
Aye.
A, no nay, motion carries.
Okay, so there's one item removed. Is there any discussion on the item that was removed by Mr. Jogers? Mr. Jogers, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to add to that, that we would review those nursing home claims by the finance committee and that they would be paid pending fund availability.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second to the motion
Second.
by Mr. Copeland? Could you repeat the motion just for clarification, please?
Sure. Read it in the order that I got it written down. I'd like to separate the nursing home claims in the amount of $219,719.09 and add that they would be paid pending funding availability and after review by the finance committee.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Anthony?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Jogers, are you suggesting that the claims never go in front of the nursing home committee for which they pertain to?
You're on.
Now I'm on. Okay.
No, I'm suggesting that currently the process is TCM kind of reviews the bills and then they submit to the treasurer and the finance committee for what they think needs to be paid. And I think there needs to be some more eyes on this because there's a lot of bills out there from last year that are getting pushed to the back and they continue to pile up, and I just want to make sure that they're getting paid in the right manner. That's why I'm asking for this.
May I continue?
Go ahead.
I guess my concern or confusion, I'm not quite sure which I want to use at this point, is that there appears to be perhaps a lack of trust with the nursing home committee.
Didn't say that. Nope. I just think that I read a thing today that there is $997,000 in past due bills. That was dated today on that report. 34 pages of bills, and $500,000 is owed to the county for IMRF, Social Security liability. So I think there needs to be some more eyes on what's going on. That's all.
Ms. Anthony, before you continue, you have asked twice. Before I come back to you, I'm going to move on, but I will come back, I promise. Mr. Whalen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm actually getting concerned that we're going to end up getting sued by some of these people that are out there waiting for money. I mean, there's bills that are due still from 2021, and I'm more concerned about lawsuits coming from that direction than I am about the other direction if we actually move forward with a sale. So I would amend that motion to specify that the finance committee be responsible for the prioritization of those bills as well.
Okay, so you're making a motion.
I am.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Is there a second to Mr. Whalen's motion? by Mr. Jokers. All right, so now we have a motion and a second. Ms. Anthony, did you have anything you wanted to speak to the amendment?
Mr. Whalen's amendment?
Yes.
Can that be repeated, please?
Mr. Whalen?
My amendment is that the Finance Committee be responsible going forward for the prioritization of the payments made by the Stephenson County Nursing Center through the Treasurer's Office, to be specific.
Ms. Anthony?
I would like to make a comment on that because it's, again, a very dialectical conversation we continue to have with us at one hand saying that we are not capable of running a nursing home, but then we hire a management company who is the expert and has the expertise to run a nursing home. And they're giving us the direction. They're the ones talking to these companies. They're the ones coming to these agreements to make sure that everyone is in the understanding of, keeping services going. But yet now we're saying let's not listen to the professionals in the management company because for some reason now the county board is capable of doing it, even though we've said for ever since I joined the board that the county board is not capable of doing that. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Jokers, I'm not sure if you meant to have your light on, but it's on. Did you want to speak or no? Okay, Mr. Whalen?
Yeah, I will just make a comment on that. They are more than welcome to be at that meeting and give direction and input.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Mr. Hart, did you?
Yes, I
Okay.
did.
Go ahead.
Would that be, that sounds like it would be completely different than we handle any other committee or any other invoices. Is that correct?
Mr. Whalen, you can respond.
I believe so, Mr. Hart, but I think at this time, with the issues that we've had, paying vendors with nursing home funds, I think it's necessary. I think the Finance Committee is the right place for that because you have all the committee chairmen at the table at the same time. So we can kind of have a look at how that affects everything, within the business of the county at the same time. So it's a broader scope look than what we're going to get at the Nursing Center committee meeting typically. So,
May I
Go ahead.
ask another question, and that would be, I thought that we had a UCCI ruling recently that indicated that we have to pay all of our bills, regardless of which pot that they're in, that it's an enterprise-wide scenario, which would be the case for any legal entity that I'm aware of or any business I've ever been affiliated with. So I don't know why we would carve out this portion of those bills and treat them separately. I would wonder why we just don't do an aging of all of our invoices as a county and pay them accordingly. That's what you would do I assume that's how you would run your business. You would have an aging for all of the invoices for your business, and you would pay them in that accordance. So I agree with, if we've got these old invoices, I think they need to be cleaned up, absolutely. But I'm just wondering if there might be a better methodology to do this that's more in line with what best practices would be and what our standard protocols are.
Okay. Mr. Hadley?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question. So this would take the claims out of the hands of the nursing home then, or we will not be getting to see the claims or anything?
Mr. Whalen, go ahead.
No, I don't think so, Mr. Hadley. Basically, we've had a management company involved with this for a year, and there's still a lot of stuff that's hanging out there that continues to become older because we can't seem to get caught up. So we keep paying things that are coming in. And again, this may be a one-time thing, it may be an ongoing thing. What I believe is a best practice, as Mr. Hart mentioned, is to take a broader look at these things. It's not that they're not going to go the nursing committee. In this case, we've got this, right? And so far, we've sat back and allowed TCM to prioritize all these things as our management company. Not saying they're doing a bad job, they're working with what they've got to work with. What I am saying though is I am genuinely concerned when I see something on this list that says so-and-so October 2021. If I'm that business, I'm gonna be suing this county at some point, saying you owe me money. It's $36,618.14. So that's my genuine concern, is the taxpayers of this county being represented well. And that committee is the finance committee that makes a lot of decisions around how we spend money in this county, right? How we budget, how we do things in a larger sense. And I think it makes sense at this point, because this has been a year. We've had this management company involved, and it's still not gotten any better. So I'm saying, let's take a fresh approach to this. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work as well, I don't know. But at this point, I think it makes sense to do something different than what we've been doing.
Mr. Hadley, before you follow up, can I ask for clarification? Do you mind if I do that?
Yes, go ahead.
So just, and this is off of Mr. Hadley's question, is your motion to then have the claims presented to nursing and approved, but its prioritization being changed from TCM to finance?
Correct.
Whatever claims
that would be the main gist of it, yes.
So whatever claims are approved out of nursing would then go to finance for prioritization?
That they're approved, as Mr. Jovers indicated, as funds become available, but that the finance committee actually sets the priorities and who gets paid.
Okay.
With TCM's input.
Okay. Mr. Hadley.
Yeah, I don't have any issue with that. Long as the claims are coming to the nursing home, we're reviewing them and passing them on to another committee. And later on, we're going to be addressing interloan funds, and maybe we can solve this whole problem with interloan funds and pay all the bills that are due and be done with it like we did back in 2005, 2006, you know. So, okay, thank you.
Mr. Jovers.
Thank you, Chairman. I guess my intent was to have the Finance Committee review all the bills and then prioritize those, not just the ones that came through that month. However, the monthly bills would go through the Nursing Committee. And I do agree with Mr. Hart, kind of need to do some prioritization before we do have the bill collectors knocking at the door. So that was my intent. The other concern, or looking ahead, if you know this continues to pile up, because the management company mentioned, I believe, Thursday night at the Nursing Committee that we would not be in the black all year long, so we're not going to get out of this hole this year. So maybe at some point we're going to have to decide, you know, if we have to make cuts somewhere, and those are going to affect every department in here, or whatever we're going to do. We're going to have to figure out how to pay these bills, because if we don't, we're going to end up getting closed. So that's my concern.
Thank you. Mr. Newton.
You can forego that. Thank you.
And Ms. Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have concern with, I hear you saying that TCM can certainly participate in the conversation and make recommendations, but we've proven that we don't take their recommendations. They've given us all kinds of recommendations to try to show us how the nursing home could be more successful, and we have voted it down. So I really don't feel comfortable with that statement that we'll actually take their recommendations into account. We're looking at, I want to disagree, Mr. Whalen, with what you said with nothing has gotten better. And I really hope that that's not what you meant, because if you actually look at the nursing home on a month-to-month basis, it is in the black. We are still making up from before, and it is taking longer and longer and longer to pay those past bills, because we haven't been able to maintain the census because of decisions the board is making, because we aren't cooperating and listening to the management company. And so here we are, where now we want to even take more away from them. We have a cooperation clause with them. It's in the contract. There's I could say a lot more, but I really have a hard time believing that we're actually going to listen to the management company, because we haven't as the majority, we haven't proven that we're capable of doing so, and then we wonder why the management company isn't as successful as they presented when they first walked through the doors. Thank you.
Mr. Frick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. One more time?
Let's try it again.
One, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Counselor as well. I don't know whether to rise to a point of order at this point, because we are looking at motions that change administrative policy, and all we're here to do is adjust the consent agenda. I'm concerned whether these are even items that we should be addressing in this scenario.
I think that you're probably right. The removal from the consent agenda would take place without a vote, without a second, I think. And then it would, have we approved the consent agenda yet?
The consent agenda has been approved without the nursing claims.
Okay, so we're outside of the consent agenda, and now we're taking this issue up. So I guess it makes sense here, doesn't it, to you?
I believe so.
Well, I was asking
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Frick.
Sorry. No, I'm just asking. It just seems out of place.
Yeah, if this was prior to the approval of the consent agenda, I would absolutely agree with you. And it's gone on so long, I forgot where we were. But being outside, I guess now would be as good a time as any.
The reality is it's outside of the consent agenda. If nothing gets done with these claims, they don't get approved.
Can't hear you.
What I had stated was the nursing claims are outside of the consent agenda, meaning that if nothing is done with them tonight, they do not get approved. So, unless you're telling me otherwise, there is a motion to amend Mr. Joger's original motion to send them to finance, and there was a second. I think for clarification, Madam Clerk, would you mind reading Mr. Whalen's amendment to the original motion?
Mr. Whalen's amendment is, as the claims are approved as the nursing committee, they will go to finance, and the finance committee will be responsible for prioritization of the claims.
Okay.
All claims, not just for the month.
Is that your motion, Mr. Whalen?
I believe that is correct, as long as it includes the outstanding claims.
As a whole.
All claims.
Okay. Mr. Frick, were you done?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Miss Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Frick brings up a good point. If you're looking at Stephenson County Code, the function of the nursing center, the committee of the Stephenson County Nursing Center shall audit the accounts and receipts of the nursing center. So it would change the function of the nursing center and place it elsewhere. So is that something that we're able to do outside of county code?
I don't think, and this is just based on what I've heard from Mr. Jogers, I don't think he's intending to remove these claims from the nursing home. The nursing home would still review and audit them. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay, so I don't think that even nominally it would be in violation of that code, but even if it were, the county board, as I've said on numerous occasions, retains any power that it delegates. But in this case, it's not an issue.
Miss Anthony, anything else?
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Newton.
Mr. Chairman, is it our intent to default on the bills for this month, and then, or is this the intent to start to pay them starting next month? I'm kind of, so not paying these tonight means we're not going to do this for a whole nother month before these bills become before committees. All right, is that what I'm understanding?
Mr. Whalen.
Thank you, Mr. Newton. No, my intent would be to call a special meeting probably by Monday of next week to review these and take action on those. Of the Finance Committee.
Anything else, Mr. Newton?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else on the amendment? And is everyone clear on the amendment? Okay, Madam Clerk, Mr. Hart, go ahead.
Mr. Whalen, would it be possible, and I don't know if this is procedurally possible, to alter your amendment a little bit to do this for a period of time, or maybe have some input from the treasurer and make sure, maybe we could put together a little group of yourself as the chairman of finance, the treasurer, Ms. Baker, and TCM to take a look at these invoices that we have a concern with, the old invoices, or maybe do this for 90. I'm not sure from a procedural standpoint, but that's what I would ask for, something a little less permanent than making this change right now.
If I could, just once claims are approved out of nursing, they automatically go on to the next month's consent agenda.
Right.
So any action could be taken as it appears it may tonight.
Okay. I was just concerned with the portion about going beyond what's submitted from the nursing committee. The way we would do it now is whatever comes in from the nursing committee, whatever is approved, would go to finance. That's what you want to prioritize?
Well, that and the fact that we have so many outstanding bills that it's time to take a look at them. And I'm very concerned that, again, about a potential lawsuit coming at us from one of these vendors, Mr. Hart. I really am. And again, I think that what you just asked for is what I'm saying. You have the finance committee. All the chairmen of these various committees are going to be there, along with, I will invite TCM. They can come physically or obviously by like a Teams meeting or something, or Zoom, however they want to do that, if they don't want to drive out.
Okay.
To review these things and make the best decisions we can about trying to dig out of this hole. But I think, to be honest with you, from my standpoint, I understand what Ms. Anthony's saying about hiring the management company. Again, I wasn't here when all that happened, right? I didn't have any input into that. But we're a year removed from that, and we're still in pretty rough shape financially. So maybe we need to get a little bit more skin in the game and try and help push this or figure it out. And maybe Mr. Hadley's got an idea. We got to borrow some money from somewhere to pay some stuff. I don't know, but I think that's the right group to talk about that and to discuss it, is at the finance committee. So thank you.
Good. Well, thank you.
Anyone else before we take a roll call vote on the amendment? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take roll on the amendment only.
Tim Whalen.
Aye.
Ronnie Bush.
No.
Samuel Newton.
Not necessary. No.
Luann Hayes.
Yes.
Casey Anthony.
No.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
Yes.
Kurt Copeland.
Yes.
Adam Modero.
No.
Larry Jogers.
Yes.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester.
Aye.
Nicole Baker.
Aye.
Steve Purick.
No.
Nine A, 5 nay. Motion carries.
Okay, we are back to the original motion. Is anyone clear on what the original motion was, or does anyone want it repeated?
Repeat.
Madam Clerk, would you please repeat it? This was Mr. Jogerst's original motion. Mr. Jogerst, would you repeat it, please? Yes.
There we go. The original motion was to separate the nursing home claims in the amount of $219,719.09 and add these two, and add that they be paid pending funding availability and after review by the finance committee.
Okay. Mr. Newton.
Yeah, I was only going to say, Mr. Chairman, that naturally the bills can go from the nursing home committee to the finance committee, because it's the last committee of the week anyway. without having a special meeting. I only asked about the meeting tonight because the bills are going to be defaulted tonight, just to have a special meeting to pass them, when every month thereafter you'd be paying them anyway, and you could automatically stop the bills in the finance committee to look at them as a part of your finance committee's duties. That's all. Thanks.
Anyone else? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Larry Jogers.
Aye.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester. Nicole Baker. Steve Frick.
No.
Tim Whalen.
Aye.
Ronnie Bush.
No.
Samuel Newton.
No.
Luann Hayes.
Aye.
Casey Anthony.
No.
William Hadley.
Aye.
Jim Hart.
Aye.
Kirk Gopleen.
Aye.
Adam Modero.
No.
Nine A, 5 nay. Motion carries.
All right, thank you. We are going to move on to public comment. If you would like to speak, please come to the podium, announce your name. I believe the podium is working tonight, Mr. Modero, so thank you. Please announce your name. You will be given 3 minutes.
Hello? Okay. I hate coming up here. So I'm here only to do some fact checking. There's going to be a long line behind me, I have a feeling. So I would like to remind everyone.
Mr. Filippo, please say your name and I'll start the clock.
Hi, I'm Mike Filippo, Transitional Care Manager. Thank you. I do want to remind everyone that there is a number being thrown out tonight for accounts payable of $997,000. I believe that's what you said, Mr. Whalen. $379,000 of that is a liability payment that is due on July 1st. And in my opinion, it shouldn't even be in this batch. It should be addressed as it comes due or closer to July 1st than tonight. So that puts the accounts payable a little over $600,000 right now, if you back that out, which I believe is a couple $100,000 better than last month. So I do want to make that statement. Number two, honestly, I could care less how the bills get handled. But I don't think you know how the bills are being handled now. I'd like to give the treasurer a compliment. The way that the bills are being handled now, the treasurer is your filter. And she's done a wonderful job. Sometimes it aggravates us, but she's done a wonderful job protecting the county. So if something needs to be paid to the county, she puts the stopper in and says, hey, look, I know that you want this bill paid, but I got to pay this to the county first, or we got to save a little bit more for payroll. So I think you've gone way out of the specter that you had to do. You really had a good filter in place that was protecting the county. Let's see, what other Pinocchios were out there? I think that's enough. I just want to clarify that, the building is in the black on an accrual basis, even today with the lower census. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Gail Sanders. I'm a Stephenson County resident. I'm going to read something that Christine Eady wrote first, and I agree with it, so that's part of why it's well written. I was able to look over the state statute that was recently found to say that if a nursing home was approved by a referendum, its sale must be approved by a referendum. Obviously, this should have been known before by the county board or its council long before now. All the anxiety and upheaval experienced by residents, staff, families, and community members could have been avoided. As advocates for our nursing home, I urge you to work to ensure that the sale of Walnut Acres goes to referendum and is only sold if that is the will of the community. Our nursing home is vital to our most vulnerable elderly and disabled citizens. Its employees are respected and valued members of our community. I am confident that the majority of our county citizens agree with me. Please help to put an end to the disruptions and obstacles that some of the past and present county board members have put towards having a functional, well-run facility where our loved ones can be compassionately and competently cared for. Thank you for your work for our county. Feel free to share this letter with your fellow county board members. Blessings, Christine Edie, Ward 1. Again, I said my name is Gail Sanders, and I have some thoughts too. The Stephenson County Nursing Home was originally founded in the 1800s, I don't have the exact date, to care for the people of Stephenson County. It wasn't about cost, it wasn't about profit. It was formed to care for the people of Stephenson County, no matter the cost. It was erected in the 1800s or 1961, or was it the 70s? Is it erected because it's a building or is it an entity? Either way, they voted to establish it. So what are we actually selling? Are we selling a building, the land? We're selling the idea of a nursing home. The idea that Stephenson County at one time chose to take care of the people in Stephenson County is important. Are we selling that idea? What is the process to close, sell, eliminate the nursing home or our nursing home? I've heard the words tonight multiple times of lawsuit and court. Good grief. We're rushing to do this with the risk of that, which will cost us money one way or another, raised insurance rates or whatever it is. All for the perceived urgency to eliminate the erected entity, no matter what the term refers to. Avoid a lawsuit. The process is a referendum. It's simple, it's honest, it's above board. It gives the people of this county a chance to choose. What's the objection to a referendum that could have decided this fairly a long time ago? I've been coming here for years now, listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gerald Petraza, currently in Galena, Illinois, for 40 years, Apple River, Illinois, out in a rural community. I want to call your attention to an event that occurred in Galena last November that is ongoing in the court system. A gentleman from Platteville, a 22-year-old, came into Illinois, ended up in Galena. He had 2 dead deer in the back of his truck. He was speeding through town because he was having an argument with his girlfriend who was in the truck with him. So the neighbors in the community called the police. This is good community policing. The officers were able to identify the vehicle that was parked in town. Now this occurred during a major event in Galena, the annual tree trimming, Christmas tree trimming. So what eventually occurred was the individual who is now the defendant came up to his truck. The Galena police interviewed this individual. They found a loaded pistol visible on his front seat of his truck. Then they continued to interview him, and they searched the vehicle, and they found 3 loaded weapons in the vehicle. One was an AK-47, one an AR-15, and one a semi-automatic military-style revolver. Now, I'm going to connect this very quickly with many of the things that Gail was addressing, and it goes to the comments that the district attorney was pointing out. What is the essence of an AR-15? We have a big debate about this. The Air Force in 1955 contracted a company to design a military weapon for the Air Force, the AR-15. Now what they're saying in Joe Davies County is that this is a hunting weapon. The essence of an AR-15 is it's a military weapon. In 1948, a gentleman called Kalashnikov, a Russian, designed a weapon that has been used since 1948. The essence of that weapon is that it's a military-style weapon. So the point is, the issues that Gail brought up is, what are you guys talking about this nursing home? What is the essence of this issue? So let me continue very quickly. So this gentleman was arrested, and the defendant is in the legal system right now. And there's 2 charges against this individual, 2 stage 4 felonies, both of which, if you do the research online, in the state of Illinois, 95% of the people get probation. I'll be around later.
Next, please. Okay. Seeing no other public. My apologies.
Good evening, I'm Dr. Steve Castle. Thank you, board, for serving, and thank you, Mr. President. So I had originally intended to write up a very eloquent and stat-laden speech to come in here to try to present some kind of logical or rational opinion as to why I do not believe that our board should be in control of the health care of our elderly. But Jesus said that you should agree quickly with your enemy while you're in the way. And after experiencing last month's meeting, I realized that the opponents of my viewpoint actually all had a very similar position that I agree with. And so I want to go from the place that I agree. Even though I disagree with the vileness of the way that they did it and the vulgarity of the way that they did it, there was this very passionate, emotional plea to have the board deal with and address these major problems that exist in the nursing home. And so what my agreement is that I really don't think that any board member specifically is individually qualified to run a nursing home, which then also means as a whole that any individual is specifically capable of running a nursing home. I even agree with Ms. Anthony, who said that you guys are failing at accomplishing these goals. And so I don't know why there continues to be a conversation as to whether you or someone who's actually a professional who knows exactly what they're doing, that's been trained, that understands what to do, which would be the private sector, should be actually in charge of the future, the life, the healthcare decisions, life and death decisions of our elderly populace. And so I think that it would be of great quality and character and virtue for the board to admit that really this is not what you guys are good at, and that you should give this to the people that are good at it and give an opportunity for the elderly to have the kind of care that the professionals would provide. I think that this conversation would actually be muted if it was some other way. If I said, hey, fix my car, and you don't have the capacity, you would easily hand that off to a professional. And yet in this discussion, we want to maintain control, the management, the decision-making processes over people's health care and their end-of-life decisions. And I don't think that that's appropriate. So I agree with my very emotional opponents that really what's happening here is that this board should not be in the management position of making decisions over the life, the healthcare decisions, and the end-of-life decisions of our elderly populace. Thank you very much.
My name is Mary Drake, and I'm a resident here in Freeport. I was told that if I was going to come speak before you, I should bring a lot of facts and figures. I haven't done that. I've become quite emotional about the fact that there are decisions being made that have consequences that affect our elderly friends and neighbors. And my sense is that Walnut Acres is coming dangerously close to being shut down by the state. I say that because you cannot ignore finances for the nursing home any more than you can ignore your own personal finances. If indeed we are on a trajectory whereby the state could shut the nursing home down, then you need to take action to avoid that, because it's not fair to force those residents to relocate, and it's not fair to let those employees go. Letting employees go is always a difficult decision, and relocating the residents cannot be a simple matter, even if it's just across the town. This is especially true for those residents who may be suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's. If you've had a loved one that has suffered from dementia or Alzheimer's, you know that upsetting their routine, changing their environment, new faces, it all can be very upsetting to them, and this has consequences for them. If you want to save Walnut Acres, and by that I mean keeping the employees in place, keeping the residents in place, then please take steps to sell it to a reputable long-term care company that has both the expertise and the resources to help it thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Jerry Clay from Dakota, Illinois. This statement deals with who is responsible for people's care. The Lord says in 1 Timothy 5:8, "But if any provide not for his own, especially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel." That scripture is discussed in this paragraph out of the Institutes of Biblical Law by R.J. Rushdoony, and I quote, "There is thus both a partiality and an impartiality to God's law. In a general sense, God's law functions impartially to cause the sun to shine on the good and evil alike, and the rain to fall on the just and the unjust. Moreover, with respect to the nation, the equal protection and government of the law apply to all, to the homeborn and to the stranger. The principle of one law is all, in all, is basic to biblical law. On the other hand, there is a definite partiality to the biblical law. In instances too numerous to cite, God intervenes in history to overthrow the enemies of his covenant people. The weather is used, plague is used, and a variety of means from the plagues against Egypt on. Moreover, the law as given to Israel is partial in that it protects an order, God's law order, and the people of that order. Idolatry is forbidden. Violations of the law order are punished. And at every point, God's law is the protection of God's order and the protection of God's law order. The modern concept of total toleration is not a valid legal principle, but an advocacy of anarchism. But, as we have seen, every religion is a concept of law order. Total toleration means total permissiveness of every kind of practice: idolatry, adultery, cannibalism, human sacrifice, perversion, and all things else. Such total toleration is neither possible nor desirable. For men, by prayer and by law, to move in terms of this partiality is neither evil nor selfish, but simply godly. To pray for others is certainly godly, but to be unmindful of all of our household and our own needs is not godly. It makes a man worse than an unbeliever.
Thank you, Mr.
Forever. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, my name is Garrett Miller. I'm a concerned citizen of Stephenson County. Why do we want to sell the nursing home? There are those that continue to lament that to this day I don't have a straight answer as to why they, meaning us, want to sell this nursing home. Tonight I come to you with an answer, and point of fact, I come with several answers. So that those who have spent years, by their own admission at this point, shouting misinformation, slinging ad hominem attacks, and doing so without providing any solutions, might listen to us and attempt to understand our perspective, we have certainly spent enough time trying to cater to yours. First off, the nursing home is a garish neon sign to all that detest the increasingly large and incompetent bureaucracy that infringes upon our everyday lives. It is a government-subsidized non-for-profit that even with a $500,000 head start cannot compete in the public market. It is a cautionary tale to any and all that advocate for government-run universal health care in this country. Could one imagine going to a hospital run by our local government? If the way we have run our nursing home for decades indicates the care we should receive, I don't think I want that care, nor should I as a taxpayer be forced to subsidize it. Secondly, this board is in no way qualified to run this facility. If the recent accusations of sexual harassment or the not so long ago racial discrimination case doesn't prove this, then surely the constant bickering of this board and the previous board, while driving this institution into utter financial ruin, does. The very premise that a group of non-industry professionals can meet monthly to set policy and manage a nursing home is preposterous. The idea that you could manage this one-star facility clinging to the bottom rung of its industry in a very competitive marketplace like this is too ludicrous a premise for even Netflix to sign off on. Thirdly, we can't afford it. The county can't afford to continue to support a nursing home with the resources at its disposal. Not just financially, which is obvious, but the most valuable resource, which is time. This board has been tasked with the responsibility for oversight and management of the whole county, not just the nursing home. There are in excess of $14 million in unfunded highway repairs needed in this county today. Our region desperately needs economic development. Housing stocks are being demolished and not replaced. People are leaving. The people that work for this county deserve a living wage. These are all things that you need to put time into, but they sit on the back burner while you watch the nursing home boil. I implore you, learn from those who came before you. I missed far too many nights reading bedtime stories and giving horseback rides because I was here debating and trying to fix this issue. Allow yourself to imagine a world where this board is no longer responsible for this facility. It's still open in the hands of professionals with a good track record.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Take me off on that, folks. Thank you.
Good evening, Ed Klein here. I had a whole bunch of stuff prepared, but I'm not going to talk. I'll probably talk about it later. The one thing I do want to mention is that TCM has not been there for a year. It's 9 months, which is 3/4, which really in business world is a big difference between 3/4 and 4/4. And we are $800,000 in the black right now this month. So those, you have to think about accrual versus cash. And obviously, I would be glad to explain that. But first, well, all I want to do, though, is really point out I disagree wholeheartedly with Mr. Larson's interpretation. What he has done is he has removed the words home properties and real estate that occur in the first half of that paragraph and somehow say that they do not apply to the second half. So when it says if the home was erected after referendum approval, he somehow says that only means the concept where it says 2/3 majority, if you're going to sell it, they talk about home properties and real estate. I have no idea how you made that opinion, except that you had to twist yourself into pretzel. This is pretzel land, so maybe you're able to do that. But it is certainly this, if this does ever, I guess what I want to say is that we probably will take this to court to get a court opinion on this. And
it's off by a year. I mean, because this would not just the referendum until next election. And in the meantime, we have a really nice facility that has to be run efficiently. And TCM is doing that. And Garrett, I don't know what you really need to sit down with Mike and talk to him about it.
I sat on his board for 2 years.
Gentlemen, we're not going to go back
Mike
and
is
forth.
only-
Finish your public comment, please.
So it's really important that you get some more information from Mike. He's very willing to talk to you, and I think there's a disconnect between the management company and what we're doing out there and what you think is happening. So, thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Chris Zimmerman. I'm a lifelong resident of Stephenson County, and I appreciate all this board does. And I hate to see you wasting all your time going over the same thing every single month when I drive on rough roads all over the county. This thing, nobody wants to close the nursing home as far as I understand. They want to sell it to someone who runs healthcare facilities. It's a 1-star facility. It's not a 4 or 5-star. It's a 1-star facility that could be maybe a 3 or 4 or a 5-star facility if it was taken over by a private organization. I don't know, that's about all I have to say, but it's just, I hate to see you guys waste your time month after month going over just beating a dead horse. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Larry Youngblood. We need to do a little fact checking. First off, Walnut Acres is a 2-star facility. Another thing about people that preparing like statistics, we get to participate in your actions, not in your intentions. So just a friendly reminder that TCM has recovered $3 million for this county. And before TCM came on, this county was going to spend $400,000, and TCM had their fine tucked down to $300,000. So there's some statistics and facts for you guys to take home with you. All right, let's get into it. Oh, back to government health care. Veterans Affairs, it's government health care. So to those who are saying that, you're saying our veterans don't deserve health care. All right. Tonight, we're going to hear a report by County Board Member Tim Whalen showcasing available long-term care options. Whalen states often that all facilities in Stephenson County take Medicare Medicaid, as in every bed available is an option to those who have Medicare Medicaid. If this was true, all facilities, especially those referred to, Liberty Village is his most knowledgeable one, would. They haven't yet, and they won't. Beds which are allocated as Medicare Medicaid doesn't mean they will be used for Medicare Medicaid. Not all private facilities are reimbursed at the higher rate of a publicly owned facility. That's the advantage of a publicly owned nursing home. I look forward to hearing this report as to why facilities which say they accept Medicare Medicaid haven't totally. I'm curious to hear within this report the percentage of private to Medicare Medicaid occupancy and availability. So looking forward to that, y'all. Have a good night.
Hi, my name's Jody Koss. I'm a resident of Stephenson County, and taking care of our elderly is not a waste of time. Not ever. In fact, it's what government is here for, to take care of the people that live in this county. So I'm really offended when someone thinks that taking care of roads is more important than taking care of people. I disagree that this facility cannot be in the black by the end of the year. We need to stop treating TCM like, they don't know what they're doing. We need to stop harassing administrators. We need to stop sending out texts that make it look like it's a flea-infested, bug-infested place that you would never put your grandma. People are saying that. People on this board are saying that to other people in the public. That's why we're not in the black. It's your faults.
Before you start, ma'am, you've been standing in the back for quite a while. Did you want to speak?
No, it's fine. Just go ahead.
Okay.
I asked if
All right.
you want to go first.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carrie Hass, and I'm here to speak in favor of selling Walnut Acres to a private entity. I have a grandma who currently resides at Walnut Acres. I have a mom who's worked for the past 5 years as a CNA out at Walnut Acres. So I could stand up here as an individual with personal buy-in and rattle off several stories that I've heard from the inside and give my subjective reasons as to why privatizing the nursing home is a good idea. But instead, I'd rather recite some facts and data and hope that the truth would speak for itself. As of April 1st, 2023, Walnut Acres has a 2-star CMS rating, including a below average score for health inspection, below average quality measure score. The facility has had 5 different administrators in the past 6 years. There has been an 18% census decrease from January of just this year alone, a 51% decrease from January of 2019. In 2022, the net operating income was a negative $54,000 per month. That was well over $500,000 on the year. Currently, the facility is looking at another $500,000 in immediate capital expenditures. Operating a nursing home is a business. They're in a business of caring for our elderly. I just listed 5 reasons as to how this business is failing. It's time to privatize this business, put operations in the hands of those who can run it successfully. Please, board, I'm asking you to vote to sell Walnut Acres. My grandma deserves better. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience, by the way.
My name is Alana. First, I have a letter from the AFSCME Foundation. Dear esteemed board member, as executive representative of the AFSCME Council 31, Local 2399 members employed at the Stephenson County Nursing Home, Walnut Acres, I'm writing to you regarding the letters of intent to purchase the home, which per the county board meeting agenda for April 20th, 2023, you may be discussing tonight. As you are likely aware, the Illinois statute regarding the establishment and maintenance of county homes requires that a county home erected after a referendum approval by the voters of the county shall not be sold or disposed of except after referendum approval thereof by a majority of the voters of the county voting thereon. In 1969, what was known as the Benjamin Stephenson County Home no longer met the state of Illinois standards for operation and was closed. Minutes from the county board that year reflected the board's willingness to seek public approval for the construction and erection of the new county home, which is now called Walnut Acres. The new home with a core administrative center and 2 separate wings was constructed after a public referendum for the $800,000 bond required to build the facility was overwhelmingly passed. Of note, the 1970 ballot referendum was not a levy increase or debt referendum to make repairs of the existing home, but rather it was a directive from the constituents of Stephenson County to construct a new facility that met state standards. Considering that the Stephenson County home was created via voter referendum on March 17, 1970, and erected thereafter, the home shall not be sold or closed without approval of the majority of the voters of the county in a referendum vote. We urge you to follow the state statute in this situation and proceed with a ballot referendum before any further actions are taken to close or sell the county home, lest the county be at peril of violating the state statute, possibly causing any legal fees and debt associated with such violation. By Sarah Donor. I agree with this woman right here, but I do not think that it should be privatized. Privatization has a history of counting out people who look like me and people who are on public health aid. They do not get to participate in the privatization because of finances, and finances should not dictate how your life ends and the livelihood that you have, as well as privatized institutions have a history of discrimination within their corporations, not hiring people that look like me. So then we have more problems coming into Stephenson County that we already are trying to eradicate in the first place. So I don't believe that the privatization of this county home should be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Kyle Cardwell. I'm one of those rare individuals who actually recently moved to Illinois and not making a run to Florida. This was my first county board meeting and probably my last. I confess I don't know enough about whether the county should sell the nursing home or not. I'm not here to comment on that. What I do rise to comment on is to highlight my shock at the lack of sheer access to records from approximately 50 years ago. I'm perplexed how a county could not have election records from an election that occurred during the lives of many of those people who are living in this room today. Why was it left to an outsider to go and do research in the county newspaper? The legal opinion shared tonight might actually carry the day in court should opponents of the sale seek legal remedies. I would remind the majority of the members of this board that while you might be in the majority in this room, your political views are not the majority views of this state. If you move to sell the nursing home, we all know that an injunction is going to be filed. That is a foregone conclusion. You should not be so confident in victory. Therefore, it might behoove this board to actually get additional legal opinions, free by the way, before you sell the nursing home and all but assure a court challenge and legal costs to the county. Perhaps the board member who said that he was more concerned about being sued for not paying bills than a lawsuit against the sale, might I suggest that that member be willing to pay the county legal fees should the county lose.
Anyone else? Last time I looked down, somebody stood up. Okay, we will move on to the next item in the agenda. Approval of the appointment to fill the vacancy in County Board District I. I notified the Republican Party after Mr. Diddens had resigned. The Republican Party brought the name of former board member Brian Brandt forward, and that is before us tonight. Mr. Whalen.
Being the other representative from District I would move to approve the appointment of Brian to this board.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
By Mr. Hadley. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Hadley.
When I became a board member back in 2002, we had all rural districts had active farmers. I've been a big opponent of having farmers on the county board, and I'm so happy that they appointed Mr. Brandt back to the board with the consent of the board tonight. I urge all board members to support Mr. Brandt. I know that he supported Mr. Helms, but I don't have an axe to grind with Mr. Brandt. I'm a Christian, and I believe he's the right fit for the board as a new board member and an active farmer, so that'll make it 3 active farmers on the county board. That's all I have, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Brandt. If you would please come up. Judge Hauser, would you mind coming up and swearing in Mr. Brandt? While Mr. Brandt is coming up, he will fill the positions that Mr. Diddens held. He will chair Public Works, as he has experience with that committee previously, and he will also fill Mr. Diddens' spot on Planning and Development. Would you mind coming up to the podium? Right in front here, please.
Please raise your right hand, sir. And repeat after me. I, Brian Brandt.
I, Brian Brandt.
Having been appointed to the Stephenson County Board District I.
Having been appointed to the Stephenson County Board District I.
In the County of Stephenson.
In the County of Stephenson.
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
That I will support the Constitution.
That I will support the Constitution.
Of the United States.
Of the United States.
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the Stephenson County Board
the duties of the Stephenson County Board
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations. Sign right there. Congratulations. Thanks again. Thank you for letting me do this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, he's going the wrong way.
You'll be sitting next to Mr. Whalen and Ms. Baker.
He's on the right way.
Next, we have zoning report. Mrs. Henning, would you please come up? Mr. Bush.
Yes, you just mentioned that he's going to be chairing Public Works.
Yes, he is.
I got a problem with that. You had the vice chair.
Mr. Bush, I did ask for comment previously. I'm not shutting you down, but if you want to have a debate on something that's already passed, I guess I'd like to know. I'd rather not have a debate after an item is already passed. I would be more than willing to listen to you, but I'm not going to go back and forth.
Well, anyway, regardless, I got a problem with that.
Okay?
You had a vice chair. I mean, they're more or less like a slap than anybody else.
Is your microphone on, Mr. Bush? I think I have you lit up. The green. There you go.
It's almost like a slap in any other vice chair. The person who takes over when the chairman's not there. Even that, and Mr. Newton, you appointed him as vice chair of that committee. Mr. Newton been chairman of the board. So to me, he just as much as qualified to be chairman of that committee. So therefore, I have a problem with that when you just overlook someone and bring someone in who's been on the board before. I had nothing against you about being here. Hey, welcome aboard. But I just have a problem how this went.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Henning, would you please proceed?
Thursday, April 13th, 2023. Is that on? Okay. The Zoning Board of Appeals met with a full quorum. The only hearing of the evening was for Lily Creek Solar Ironwood Renewables, LLC. They are requesting a special use to allow for a 5 megawatt solar facility with energy storage on approximately 45 acres of a 96.67 acre parcel. Testimony was given, and with a voice vote of 4-0, the ZBA recommends approval by this board with the following conditions. Relocation of the BES to the higher ground, and signs must be placed at the site during construction, warning of construction.
Is there a motion to accept?
Guess it comes from my committee, so move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Frick. Is there a second? By Mr. Whalen. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Thank you. Anything else, Ms. Henning?
That is all.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have no unfinished business. We do have 3 proclamations. Is there anyone here from National Day of Prayer in the audience? Okay, there is not. I'm going off a little bit. Instead of the county clerk reading the proclamations, I will be doing so tonight. First proclamation is for the National Day of Prayer. Whereas the Stephenson County Board recognizes that the United States of America was founded on the precepts of freedom, liberty, diversity, and the right of people to acknowledge God according to the dictates of their own conscience. And whereas, since our nation's founding, Americans have turned to God in times for trial for wisdom, courage, direction, comfort, and at the same time to express gratitude. And where this is the time of international distress, We give thanks for the men and women of our military who stand as watchmen on the wall to defend our nation and the future of democracy and civilization. And whereas, even though this is a time of uncertainty and distress, we give thanks that the United States of America has been blessed beyond measure. We are continually grateful for our families, the abundance of our land, and the inalienable rights and liberties. And whereas the President of the United States of America has called on all citizens to speak God's continued guidance, grace, and protection for this land, and to reaffirm the role of prayer in our society, and to honor the religious diversity that our freedom permits by recognizing the 4th day of May 2023 as a National Day of Prayer, with the theme of Stand Fast in the Liberty and text of Stand Fast, therefore, in liberty by which Christ has made free. Therefore, in recognition of Stephenson County's need for inspiration, strength, guidance, and divine direction, I, Scott H. Helms, Chairman of the Stephenson County Board, do hereby proclaim Thursday, May 4th, 2023, as the National Day of Prayer in Stephenson County. I invite Stephenson County residents to pray for God's protection, for peace throughout the world, and to seek a moral and spiritual renewal, and to express gratitude for our blessings. I urge the citizens of Stephenson County to join in observing this day with appropriate programs. Next proclamation is for Safe Streets by the Abate Motorcycle Awareness Group. Is anyone here from that group? 0 for 2. Okay. Whereas safety is the highest priority for the highways and streets of our county and state, and whereas the great state of Illinois is proud to be a national leader in motorcycle safety, education, and awareness, and whereas motorcycles are a primary, common, and economical means of transportation that reduces fuel consumption and road wear and contributes in a significant way to the relief of traffic and parking congestion, and whereas it is especially meaningful that the citizens of our county and state be aware of motorcycles on the roadways and recognize the importance of motorcycle safety, and whereas the members of Abate of Illinois Incorporated, a brotherhood aimed towards education, continually promotes motorcycle safety, education, and awareness in high school driver's education programs and to the general public in our county and state, presenting motorcycle awareness programs to over 120,000 participants in Illinois over the past 7 years, and whereas all motorcycles should join Abate of Illinois in actively promoting the safe operation of motorcycles, as well as promoting motorcycle safety education, awareness, and respect of the citizens of our county, state, and whereas the motorcyclists of Illinois have contributed extensive volunteerism and money to national and community charitable organizations, and whereas during the month of May, all roadway users should unite in the safe sharing of roadways within the county of Stephenson County and throughout the great state of Illinois. Therefore, I, Scott H. Helms, Chairman of the Stephenson County Board in the great state of Illinois, in recognition of 36 years of Abate of Illinois and over 352,318 registered motorcyclists statewide, and in recognition of the continued role Illinois serves as a leader in motorcycle safety education awareness, do hereby proclaim the month of May this year, 2023, as Motorcycle Awareness Month. All right. The last I have is for Greater Freeport Partnership, and I believe Nicole Hass is here. So thank you for coming. I greatly appreciate that. Greater Freeport Partnership celebrates National Travel and Tourism Week and Economic Development Week from May 7th through May 13th, 2023. Whereas the Greater Freeport Partnership works on behalf of Freeport and Stephenson County as economic development and tourism partners to promote and grow our region. And whereas economic development and tourism promote economic well-being and the quality of life for their communities by creating, retaining, and expanding jobs that facilitate growth, enhance wealth, and provide a stable tax base. And whereas economic development and tourism continue to be the essential part of Freeport and Stephenson County's economy, development, and workforce as an essential industry that leads to economic growth, benefits business, and fosters mutual understanding. And whereas economic development and tourism enable success for all industries, including manufacturing, agriculture, defense, healthcare, and more, by driving sales growth, innovation, education, and operations that move our economy, our nation, and Freeport and Stephenson County forward. And whereas economic development and tourism stimulate and incubate entrepreneurism in order to help establish the next generation of new businesses, which is the hallmark of the American economy. And whereas economic development and tourism are engaged in a wide variety of settings, including rural and urban, local, state, provincial, and federal governments, public-private partnerships, education, and a variety of other institutions. And whereas economic development and tourism attract and retain high-quality jobs, develop vibrant communities, and improve the quality of life in their regions. And whereas economic development and tourism support vibrant and safe communities in Freeport and Stephenson County by generating state and local tax revenue to support essential services such as education, emergency response, public safety, and more. And now, therefore, be it resolved that I, County Board Chairman Scott H. Helms, do hereby proclaim May 7th through the 13th, 2023 as National Travel and Tourism and Economic Development Week in Stephenson County, Illinois, and urge the citizens to join me in recognizing the critical role these industries play in the sustainability and growth of our region. Nicole, would you care to say anything?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for reading all of that.
Thank you for coming.
It did not seem that long when I wrote it, so I apologize. My name is Nicole Hass. For those who I have not had a chance to meet yet, I am the brand director at the Greater Freeport Partnership and work in the capacity specifically of tourism. I believe you've met on different occasions my counterpart, Mark Williams, who could not be here today because he is at an economic development meeting. Tourism is a vital part of economic development, and it's kind of fortuitous that they happen to fall within the same week, the celebratory week of the second week of May. Here in Freeport and Stephenson County, we have a number of activities that we share throughout the year, but specific to this week, we will be highlighting a number of our activities that are coming up for tourism season, which is our Be a Trailblazer campaign, highlighting the amazing outdoor spaces and parks that we have in our region, as well as our newly developed downtown and all of the shopping, entertainment, and restaurant amenities. Speaking of restaurants, this Saturday begins Stephenson County Restaurant Week. In that time, we promote all restaurants in our area, new item features, menus, and try to encourage residents as well as visitors to try something new that maybe they have not seen before. One more promotional plug while I'm here. Pretzel Fest is also this Saturday, even though it's 45 degrees, third year. We've had really good weather the last two, so we'll take 45 degrees. Everybody still come out and celebrate. We have a number of things to celebrate, both the pretzel food as well as the pretzel mascot. And we will be on Chicago Avenue between Main Street and Stephenson Street from noon to 4 p.m. with programs, vendors, and lots of barbecue. Thank you so much for celebrating Economic Development and Tourism Week here locally. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to go right to the chairman's report. I'm going to keep it brief, understanding where we are. I apologize.
Motion to approve all three.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Is there a second? Mr. Jogers, Ms. Anthony.
I would like to take the National Day of Prayer proclamation separately, please.
Okay. Is any, Mr. Hadley, Mr. Jogers, do you have an issue with that?
No.
Okay, so for the abate and national travel and tourism, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And for National Day of Prayer, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, I believe Ms. Anthony and Mr. Modero. Is there anyone else that voted no? Okay, very good. I apologize for that. Thank you. Moving on to the chairman's report, the county administrator is going to be handing out the two bids that were received for the mill race project. For those of you that have not been on the board very long, this was I don't know how to describe it. I guess Mr. Hadley really spearheaded this effort to bring water and sewer to Millrace Crossing. When we received ARPA funds, I wholeheartedly supported him then, and I still wholeheartedly support the project now. This was a good idea as far as trying to finally finish the project out there and make it shovel ready. The bid opening was on March 30th. The two bids that we received, one was for over 14 million, the other was over 15 million. As you may or may not recall, we have approximately 6.25 million budgeted for this project in 2023. We are receiving, and we've actually received approximately about $500,000 from Ingrown Farms so far on a negotiation that Mr. Hadley was part of to bring funds for the public-private partnership to get this accomplished. The long and the short of it is we are approximately between $7 and $8 million short. This deal is not dead, however. We are pursuing other funding options. So everyone, please keep in mind there are jobs at stake in Millrace right now for this project. So this is not something to be applauding or anything else. When this project started 2 years ago, prices were obviously much, much less, and they came in much higher. But it is imperative that we work to try to close the gap responsibly, and I stress responsibly. So this bid is good. Both bids are good for 60 days. The City of Freeport, the county, and Greater Freeport Partnership, along with Fair Graham, are working diligently to find other funding sources to help close this gap. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, if not, we will move on then to the presentation by Helios. We have Mario and Andrew here from Helios. Gentlemen, if you would please come up to the podium. Thank you for being patient and waiting for the last hour and 45 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Helms. Thank you to the board for having us here this evening. We really appreciate your time. My name is Mario Wilson. I'm the Managing Director and Founding Partner of Helios Healthcare Advisors. We are an advisory firm based here in Chicago that advises healthcare facilities and owners all across the country in capital formation as well as M&A advisory. And at the request of Stephenson County, we were engaged to run a process to identify bidders who are interested in acquiring Walnut Acres. And we've since concluded that process. We've sent out a package to all of the board, I believe via the county administrator, that has a lot of information. And I think for the purposes of our discussion tonight, what we'd like to do is focus on Section 2 and Section 4, which I think is the most pertinent to our process and to the county. And so Section 2 is our process summary that basically outlines all of the data that we've presented that's going to outline the activity that we encountered in the market, the identification of how many prospects were approached, how many individuals and organizations, and the profile of those organizations, whether they be for-profit, non-for-profit, hospital, skilled nursing operators, and or behavioral health providers within the surrounding area and within all of Illinois and contiguous states. In total, 60 organizations were contacted, and of those 60, 2 organizations came forth and put together letters of intent to acquire Walnut Acres. And those organizations, in addition to the terms that they outlined, are identified in Section 4 of the packet. And ultimately, all of the information in Section 4 will go through background, bios, as well as all the indicative terms associated with the organizations that put forth bids in our process. Overall, I think that the process was successful in that we do have multiple bids that were submitted that really give you an identification of where the market is for this asset from an economic perspective, as well as thinking through who was contacted in this process. really gives you an idea, and some of the feedback in the bidder matrix, in the prospect distribution report at the end of section 2 will give you a lot of feedback that we received verbally, via email, etc., from prospects who we identified in the market who had an interest or did not have an interest in the facility. So with that, I'd like to open it up for questions. If everyone has any questions on our process or anything that's included in the packet, I'd be happy to answer those at this time.
Any questions from anyone? Oh, Mr. Whalen.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming tonight. My name's Tim Whalen, and been pretty heavily involved in this process since I got on the board here last December. The timeline, do you expect that to be pretty rigid? Is it flexible? There's been some discussion around here trying to hold off any type of sale till next year. Just curious, at least in your experience in these letters of intent, if we don't move forward soon, I guess there's no guarantees either way, but what would be your expectation?
Sure. So the timeline was put together, and I believe there might be dates in there, given some of the conversation that we've had throughout the process in terms of, if we move forward, correct, in this process, whether it be today or, next month. The purpose of that timeline is to set milestones and transaction milestones specifically. I think to the question about whether or not the buyers are rigid in that timeline is really determined by the capital markets. I think that buyers are in and out of the market at this time. These are the buyers that were identified who are in the market and are interested in pursuing the acquisition. I think that things change respectively within their organizations, but also in the broader economic environment that might increase the number of interested parties who might be interested in coming into the facility and acquiring it, and or remove them from the market, including rising interest rates and or anything specific to their organization that might come up during that time. So I think as it stands today, these buyers who we've presented, who we've brought indication of interest in on, are interested. Whether or not they might be interested in a year, unsure. It's hard to say.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Copley.
Yes.
Yes, I'm not familiar with Upward Care. The other one I am familiar with. Have you worked with Upward Care much, and can you give an opinion at this time?
We are aware of Upward Care and the principles of Upward Care. They are a relatively new organization that is founded by principals who have been in the nursing home industry for their entire careers. And I think that personally, we've never transacted with Upward Care or either of the organizations that issued indications of interest. What we do know is that they are operators of nursing homes. They are well capitalized based on the information that they provided us, and the facilities on their facility lists that they currently operate indicate that they have a presence in the space and that they are partnering up with another organization who's at the back of that packet, Stern Therapy Consultants, who we are familiar with, who operate skilled nursing facilities in the state of Illinois.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, gentlemen, thank you for coming up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have executive session, 5 ILCS 120/2, section C6, setting of a price or lease of property owned by the public body. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Frick, seconded by Mr. Hadley. Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Steve Frick.
Yes.
Brian Brandt.
Yes.
Tim Whalen.
Yes.
Ronnie Bush.
Yes.
Samuel Newton.
Yeah.
Luann Hayes.
Yes.
Casey Anthony.
No.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart,
No.
Kurt Copeland,
Yes.
Adam Modero,
Yes.
Larry Jogers,
Yes.
Scott Helms,
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester, Nicole Baker.
Aye.
13A, 2 nay. Motion passes.
Thank you. If the members of the public would All right. We just came out of executive session. No action was taken. We will move on to the next item in the agenda, which is approval of letter of intent. Are there any motions to be made? Going once. You raised your finger?
I did.
Would you like to be recognized, Mr. Frick?
Mr. Chairman?
There we go. I would move to approve or acknowledge the bid of Upward Care and ask for $1.6 million.
Okay, so is there a second to the motion? There's a second by Mr. Jogurst. Just for clarification, your motion was to approve Upward Care in the amount of $1.6 million. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any discussion? Mr. Jogurst, you had your button pushed, I believe.
Yes, thank you. I could go on. We've talked about this thing forever, so I'm probably not going to say anything new. However, much of what I said back in August of 2020 was still true, which was it will need to be sold before we are forced to close it. I still believe this is true. We need to face reality and sell it if everyone wants it to stay open. Otherwise, it will probably soon close on its own because we didn't pay the bills. The bill collectors are already knocking on the door asking to be paid. We need to sell it at a fair price so the new owners are not loaded down with debt and default on it, can't make ends meet, and then end up closing it anyway. Having a couple other points that probably need to talk about a plan to pay some of these past bills, but I don't really want to get into that at this point. But any asset that you owe more on than it's worth is no longer an asset but a liability. It's time to sell it before it closes on its own. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Frick.
You must still have me on.
All right, we'll move on. Ms. Hayes.
Yes, I would just like to have some clarification on this company in regards to the residents and to the staff. Are there any grandfather clauses indicated in this proposal that would allow for everyone to stay if they so choose to?
So I will just clarify that this is not an offer to purchase. This is a letter of intent that does open a window of review, due diligence.
Okay.
But if you'd like more clarification from the gentleman from Helios, I'm sure they'd be glad to address any specifics.
He has it.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, would you mind coming up again to the podium?
Would you mind repeating the question, please?
Sure. I'm just wondering with these proposals, are there any grandfather clauses within them that would say that they must keep all the residents and they must offer the staff a new job? Are they going to keep everybody?
Sure, and I think that it's going to depend, as Chairman Helms mentioned, on what the contract stipulates. And in our experience and handling these transactions is that there are typically key staff who the buyer will want to retain. And I think that all buyers are going to come in and they're going to have to rehire everybody who is a part of the existing staff. Residents will all stay in place. Residents generate revenue, right? That doesn't make sense to discharge any residents in a operational transition. Staff is a little bit different. Everyone will be re-interviewed, new background checks, et cetera, that will go into the rehire of all of these individuals. And so if the staff is good, and typically, administrators, director of nursing, et cetera, those key positions are kept in place unless there is a reason for them to replace them. Bad morale, bad leadership, et cetera, that might come into play. I do know that Walnut Acres has had a lot of turnover in the upper ranks of the staff. And, again, depending on what is in place at the time of the transition, the buyer typically will work with the existing owner to find staff that will help in that transition and make that a much more smooth and efficient process. So that is our experience, and it's hard to say at this point what that buyer will do when we don't have a buyer at this point.
I'm just concerned, thanks for that clarification. I'm just concerned that because a lot of our residents are on Medicaid, Medicare, that they will not be replaced with people that are private pay. That's my biggest concern.
Absolutely, and a valid concern. And I think that we provided some data in the package at the end of, I believe, Section 4 that outlines the percentage of Medicaid days associated with all of the facilities that both buyers currently operate. And I believe one Saba was about 80% of their existing resident days are either Medicare and or Medicaid, and Upward Care is, I believe, somewhere around the 55 to 56% of all their facilities are existing Medicaid residents.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Hadley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just two questions. Why don't you explain to the board what a letter of intent is and what kind of cost the letter of intent, if approved, will cost, not the county, but the individual that is doing his duties to get this letter of intent done before the sale of the nursing home.
Sure. And so my interpretation of a letter of intent, and I'm not an attorney, I don't have a law license. Letter of intent is a legal document, and the exact definition of what a letter of intent is, I can't give you at this time. My experience with letter of intents are that they are an indication. Typically, they are non-binding. Typically, they outline the high-level terms associated with getting to a contract, so that when you do get to a contract, which both parties will start to expend dollars on, specifically legal dollars, you have some framework. It's an outline. And like I said, non-binding outline. And the cost associated with entering into a letter of intent typically will kick off a contract drafting process in which the buyer will start to expend legal dollars on drafting a definitive agreement, purchase agreement of the fixed assets, which is the real estate, property, fixtures, equipment, etc., and then an operation transfer agreement, which handles all of the facets of transition of the day-to-day operations of the organization.
So that leads, can I follow up?
Please.
That leads me to that party has to spend money. And does that party realize that there might not be enough votes on the board floor to support the sale of the nursing home? And here, are they willing to spend money and not get anything for their money because it gets turned down for the sale of the nursing home? There's a lot of uncertainty here tonight, and I hope you relay that to the people if this passes, that there could be a court action to stop the sale and maybe a referendum or something. So I hope the party would know all this stuff. That's all.
Thank you. Ms. Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to say something similar to what Chairman Hadley just said. And I cautioned that at the very beginning of this, when there was the vote to engage with your company, that I even suggested it was perhaps a waste of time because there weren't the votes. And so that hasn't changed. From my understanding, the votes still aren't there. And so, a company, I hope they're fully aware of what's going on. I do have a question. Were you guys involved in the sale of the DeKalb County Nursing Home by chance? Was that your company?
We were not.
Okay. So I am concerned, I know this is just a letter of intent, but I am concerned moving forward with any company, just looking at what recently happened in DeKalb County, which had a county-owned nursing home, and they did vote to sell. They only had two offers. One of them was from a company called, I think, Illumination, Illuminate HC, and the other was Saba. DeKalb Nursing Home did go with Illuminate HC because of concerns with Saba. And then after that decision was made, then Illuminate teamed up with Saba. And so now that particular company that there was concerns with is now taking over, teaming up is how it's said in this particular article. So I guess understanding that you weren't part of this, but how does that happen if, like, let's say we continue to move forward and then there is a sale, or we approve a sale to
Upward Care.
Thank you, Upward. How do we prevent them from not teaming up? Is there any way to prevent them from not teaming up with another company like Saba?
Sure, and it's hard to say. I think prior to the transfer of the assets and the operation, there is certainly a path to prevent that from happening. The legal entities associated with the acquisition and the operations and who they transfer to will all be in the legal documents that will be reviewed by the county's council throughout that process. Once that sale effectuates, unfortunately, I'm not sure if there is any way to prevent that organization from doing what they want with what they own, unfortunately. But again, I think that with the information, and that's why it's important to do your due diligence on the front end on these organizations, you talk to them and you get to know them and you create some trust. And I think that that's probably the most important thing to do leading up to a sale, is to make sure that you know who you're dealing with and that you trust who you're dealing with. And I think that that's why organization sellers hire firms like ours to help in that process, to give you the information, to give you our professional opinion as you go through that process. And so we are happy to help throughout that exchange to the extent that we can. And certainly as it relates to helping you get to a place where you feel comfortable with who these people are, vetting processes, et cetera, which we have a lot of experience doing.
Thank you. Can I, one more follow-up?
Yes.
And this is just to my fellow county board members. Again, it just, unless I'm completely out of the loop, I don't understand why we're continuing to do this when the 2/3 is not there. Even as a business, a governmental unit, going forth and with something that we know we can't follow through with, I don't think that bodes well. I don't think that we're operating in good faith. And I think that regardless of what you believe about the opinion on whether it's required to have a referendum or not, I think that's definitely the course that we should take. And so that it can be left to the voters to decide if this is what we should do, so that when we do go out and we do engage in letters of intent and go forward with the sale, we can do it with confidence. I know that there's many people who have said that they are not for the sale of the nursing home, except if there was a referendum that said, yes, sell the nursing home, then our vote would change, myself included. And so then the votes would be there. So I think that that's really the course that we should take. I don't think we should engage any further knowing that the votes aren't there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Hart?
Question for you, Mr. Chairman. When we are voting to sign the letter of intent, what kind of vote? Is this a simple majority vote? Or is this a 2/3 vote, which would be to consummate the sale, assuming that there isn't a referendum required?
I did inquire with the state's attorney on what type of vote it would require if Upward Care is selected or a motion is made. Is that your question?
Yes.
I believe it would be a simple majority, and the state's attorney can correct me if I'm wrong.
So a simple majority.
Can you speak into your microphone, please?
A simple majority vote to sign the letter of intent.
Correct.
And we still end up at the end of the road needing a supermajority vote, or, as has been indicated now, the possibility of a referendum.
If there is a purchase agreement presented to the board after the 30-day due diligence window.
Okay. May I ask a follow-up question to Mr. Larson? Mr. Larson, is there, in light of the question on the referendum, would signing this letter of intent on our part, could that precipitate litigation?
Well, anybody can sue anybody for anything. In Champaign County, I think there's open lawsuits against Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny. So, could that precipitate a lawsuit? Of course. I think the county's risk of a serious lawsuit would be if they had approved a sale contract. Particularly the Upward Care contract takes some pains towards the end to indicate that it's not binding in any way. The parties aren't obligated to sell or buy the nursing home. Could someone sue us? Of course. What their grounds would be or the relief that they would be seeking, I can't imagine.
So we're not entering into an agreement to provide anything really other than to allow them to do due diligence?
Yes,
Is that
a cooperation agreement. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thanks.
Is there any action on approval of letter of intent? Anyone wish to make a motion? You do have a motion. I apologize. Mr. Frick made it for 1.6 million with Upward Care. I apologize. Mr. Newton.
Make a motion to postpone for 60 days till you get some more information about whether or not we actually need to do a referendum. And postpone does take precedent over any motion on the floor.
Just for clarification, are you looking to table?
That's good too. Postpone or table, either way.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
By Mr. Hart. I believe that it's non-debatable. Is that correct? Or is it debatable?
I'm gonna have to look it up. And does anyone want to debate it? Okay, then I better look it up. All right. It is not debatable, amendable, or eligible for reconsideration.
Okay, so Madam Clerk, would you please take roll on tabling this for 60 days, please?
Samuel Newton.
Can I?
Oops, let me turn the microphones on.
I said 30 or 60, so just 30 days is enough.
30 days. Okay, Mr. Hart, are you in agreement with that since you seconded the motion?
Yes.
All right, thanks.
Second.
Please take roll.
Aye.
Luann Hayes.
Aye.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
William Hadley.
Aye.
Jim Hart.
Aye.
Kurt Copeland.
Aye.
Adam Modero.
Aye.
Larry Jogers.
No.
Scott Helms.
No.
Jackie DeMeester.
No.
Nicole Baker.
No.
Steve Frick.
No.
Brian Brandt.
No.
Tim Whalen.
No.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, we will be moving on now to action items and information from standing committees. First up is Finance. Mr. Whalen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the Northern Illinois Land Bank.
Just a minute, Mr. Whalen, I'm sorry. All right, please proceed.
We have approval. I would make a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the Northern Illinois Land Bank for the acquisition of certain properties through abandonment proceedings.
Is there a second? By Mr. Brandt. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Whalen, you have another item?
We have a approval of purchase of a sheriff's vehicle, and I do not have the amount in front of me. Give me just a sec here. I'll let you have that, Madam Clerk.
You might be able to get to it faster.
41,902.
In the amount of $41,902, as submitted and approved by the Finance Committee.
Is that your motion, Mr. Whalen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Jogerst. Is there any discussion on this? Ms. Anthony?
Just clarification, this was a vehicle that was approved in the supplementals, correct?
That is correct. It was approved in the budget for 2023.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Whalen, your next item, please.
We also have the approval of a bid, if I can find it. I apologize, guys, I wasn't quite ready for this. For duct cleaning at the health department. Where are you? What's that? $15,600 to come out of existing funds in their budget. I would so move.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Copeland. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, your fourth item, Mr. Whalen.
We also have the approval of an interfund loan policy. Hey, there we go. I finally got it. Now it's not going to come up. Mr. Jovers, through the administration committee, has worked pretty hard on that. I think everybody's seen a copy of that. So I would move to approve the interfund loan policy as presented.
Okay, is there a second? By Mr. Jogerst. Is there discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Jogerst.
These next three items, this interfund loan policy, the resolution establishing the policy, and then the code amendment. As we get to these, they really are a package. And I do have one small amendment to make to the code change down there when we get there.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Whalen?
So subsequent to that, we have approval of a resolution establishing an interfund loan policy and oversight of such loans, which reads as follows. Whereas at various times and by various means, the County Board of Stephenson County, Illinois has, in collaboration with the county departments, previously implemented loans between various departments to address periodic financial issues, and whereas the procedures and terms for making such loans has not been previously defined, making the loan process potentially inconsistent and unclear for the various stakeholders. Now, therefore, be it resolved that by this resolution, the County Board of Stephenson County, Illinois, does hereby establish an interfund loan policy which is attached to this resolution, and be it further resolved, the County Board of Stephenson County hereby revises County Code 2917, Section 4A, which we will do in a minute, to designate the Finance Committee of the Stephenson County Board to have oversight duties of the interfund loan policy, thereby establishing a consistent and transparent process of all such loans. I would so move to approve.
Is there a second? Second. By Mr. Hart. Is there discussion? Mr. Hart?
No, I'm sorry.
No? Seeing no discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Whalen, your final item.
So lastly, we must approve the code amendment to Chapter 2917, which reads as follows, and then Mr. Jovers might have an amendment to that. As it reads as presented, we added item number 4 in Section 2917, which reads, this committee shall have oversight of the interfund loan policy, which establishes administrative procedures for loans between various county departments. And subsequently on item 6 of the same statute, we add the line current subsection at 4 or A4 references the interfund loan policy added for 2023 by resolution number 23 of the county board. I would so move.
Motion made by Mr. Whalen, second by Mr. Jogurst.
I also want to make an amendment to that.
Mr. Jogurst, before we do that, is there any discussion? Mrs. Demeester, you raised your hand? No. No? Okay. Good thing we're not at an auction. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Jogurst.
All right, thank you, Chairman. What we need to add on there, on that section 4, after the terms that Mr. Whalen mentioned, I want to add on there, interfund loans shall be approved by the county board with a simple majority vote.
That is your amendment?
That is my amendment to that code.
Is there a section?
4A. Yep.
Second.
And Mr. Hart, is there discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, back to the original motion. Is there any other discussion on the original motion for the code? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any items out of your committee? Anything else you'd like to discuss?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to public property and safety. Mr. Copleen, you have an action item?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman.
I have a job description for the Stephenson County Sheriff's Office. For the title of the Social Service Administrator, that's a civilian position. As you're aware, Sheriff Stovall did a presentation last month on the position, and I will make a motion to approve the job description.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Copleen, seconded by Mr. Hadley. Is there any discussion? Okay, let's take a roll call vote on this, please.
Kurt Copleen.
Aye.
Adam Modero.
Aye.
Larry Jokers.
Aye.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester.
No.
Nicole Baker.
Aye.
Steve Frick.
Aye.
Ryan Brandt.
Aye.
Tim Whalen.
Yes, ma'am.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
Samuel Newton.
Aye.
Luann Hayes.
Aye.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
Yes.
14A, 1 nay. Motion carries.
Great, thank you very much. Anything else out of your committee, Mr. Copleen?
Yes. Saturday's DEA National Take Back for Prescriptions. It's
Held at German Valley. It's between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Also, there's been an RFP that seems to come to fruition for the engineering firm for the HVAC project. That'll be presented next month at council. And that will be it.
Okay, you see the sheriff is here. Is there anything you wanted to add?
I'd
Sheriff Stone.
like to add about the drug take back is we're partnering with the German Valley Fire Department, so it is sponsored by the DEA. We're partnering with them. We're actually doing the DEA take back, and we're partnering with German Valley, and I'd like to thank them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to administration, Mr. Jogurst.
Thank you, Chairman. I have 3 items on here tonight. First one is the approval of Ninja One RMM contract, and that is for the amount of $7,090 or $7,050, and that is for a 14-month contract. Mr. Louie worked on that and did a nice job. This will come out of the IT lease account. What this does, feel free to correct me, Mr. Louie, but this will allow him to remote into any county computer and fix problems rather than walking and driving to help them. This will save him much time and provide a quicker solution resulting in less downtime. So I would make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Modero. Is there any discussion on this? Good. Mr. Louie?
The only thing I would add to this is this will also build the county's inventory
that we're looking to do, so I'll get a better idea of what machines are running what and give us an idea of what we can do for, I've had some meetings with Dell in regards to leasing options as well for the county. So we're moving forward on that front, and this will also implement the countywide ticketing system. Everybody will have the ability to submit their issues right from their desktop, and that will go right into a ticketing system to myself and will let me know where I need to head or what I need to take care of. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Next item, Mr. Jogerst.
Okay, the next one is approval of invoice cloud agreement. This one was for $2,580, which is currently available in the treasurer's budget. What this does, it will allow online payment for real estate and other type payments, tax payments. We're projecting there will be a cost savings on paper, postage, mailing materials, and labor, but there's a total estimate. I'm sure it will pay for itself, though. The other item is of note is there's no support needed from Mr. Lourie on this software, so I will make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Modero. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Your next item, Mr. Jogerst.
Okay, the last one is approval of amendment to county recording fee schedule. The Illinois General Assembly enacted Public Act 102-1135 effective July 1st, 2023 to require our recorders to increase the rental housing support program from $9 to $18. And then also in that packet, there was the current fee schedule, which was attached on page 2 and 3. Anything you want to add to that there, Madam Clerk?
It's required by the state, so if we don't pass it, we'll be paying for it.
Okay. Yep, okay. There you go. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? By Mr. Whalen. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Hadley, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the county clerk for assisting me on some information, give me the old fee schedule. If I'm right, only 2 fees changed, one from 75 to 85, the standard document, and then the second one was the non-standard document. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's the only 2. In the near future, I'd like to see the old fee schedules be attached with the new fee schedules, and she obliged me with that. As to this Public Act 102-1135, I'm very disappointed in our Democrat legislators in Springfield for passing this. This was not done. Our Republican legislators were totally against this, but we're going to have to pass this because we don't want to pick up the cost on this. But I just wanted to let everybody know that this was led by the Democrats in Springfield. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, thank you. Any other information out of your committee, Mr. Jogerst?
I think we'll have the final details figured out for next month. We'll bring a travel reimbursement policy forward. We almost passed it. We got 2 more little items to add in there, and we'll bring that next month. So other than that, I have nothing further.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to court services. Mr. Bush.
Yes. Last one, as I mentioned that the circuit clerk had received a grant on taking care of some things around the court, but however, some of the stuff came without a warranty. So this is what she's asking for, $14,600 for warranty for 8 switches throughout the courthouse and places, which is worth for up to 5 years. So, Mr. Lourie, you want to speak on that?
So, before you do that, Mr. Bush, would you make a motion to put it on the floor?
I'll so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hart. Mr. Louie.
So with the Circuit Clerk's AOIC grant, they covered just about all of it. They refused to cover the warranties on the equipment. And it is my advice to the county that you do not want to install equipment without warranties. Free equipment's good, but if it goes bad, then we're stuck footing the cost of trying to replace those. So that's what they wouldn't cover in the AOIC grant. They approved everything else. So that is why we are making this motion tonight to have this passed. So I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Frick, I see your finger. Go ahead. Thank you for putting it on.
I'm sorry. Just this one. Number one. Curious where the dollars are coming from.
Mr. Louie.
They originally, she was going to request these out of contingency, but it sounds like there may be some things coming for that soon. I do have the available budget right now, and I'm so convicted on us needing these that I have agreed to take them out of the IT grant. Actually, it's out of my IT line item. I do have the money. I just asked for mercy if for some reason towards the end of the year something comes up and I run a little short. I'm going to point everybody back to this night where I was so gracious. But as of right now, I don't foresee any issues. And I think we need this, so that is what we're going to do. So the money is budgeted.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Louie, you're saying that it would come out of the IT fund?
Correct.
So that's from a different fund of the circuit clerk's fund?
Yes, it's out of the IT budget altogether.
Would that not require an interfund loan?
She does not have the money in her budget. That's why we're...
I hear that.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's IT equipment.
No money in the budget.
It's a warranty for IT equipment, correct?
Okay.
Anything else, Ms. Anthony? Anyone else? Mr. Brandt.
I'm the blank up there for now. I have a question about the warranty.
Can you push the green button on the microphone?
Thank you. The warranty, how long is that warranty good for?
The amount that you have there is a warranty for 8 different units, and it's for 5 years.
5 years, thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Oh.
Sorry, I just wanted to add one more thing. I do want to point out how the circuit clerk was gracious in getting this grant, and this is not solely for her office. These 8 switches will cover the whole courthouse and the county for what's needed. So we're replacing switches for more than just the circuit clerk out of this.
Right, thank you. Seeing no other comments, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, your next item, Mr. Bush.
Yes, could I combine the two, the circuit clerk and probation, because they're for the same thing? This online reporting where they have to submit a voucher and they will be reimbursed up to $12,000. So it's for circuit clerk and also for probation and pretrial. So can I make a motion to combine those two, where we could vote on them at the same time, or they have to be separate?
You gave me the sure.
Hey,
All right.
so moved.
All right. And second by Mr. Jogerst. Is there any discussion on either of those two items? Mr. Whalen.
Mr. Bush, I'm just curious what that covers. I mean, when somebody needs reimbursement for that, help us for me, I don't know that much about court services. What does that actually cover?
Well, what they have to do,
expense?
they have to submit a voucher of any online reporting that they do. In fact, I got a call after we had met Wednesday. I got a call from probation, which she had already had budgeted for. She got certified that where she will be reimbursed. So there's no big issue about that. Just waiting on the circuit clerk to get certified, and then she will be reimbursed as well.
Just for a point of clarification, Mr. Bush, this is not coming out of county funds.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. All right, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Bush, do you have anything else out of your committee?
Yeah, we opened the application for the Youth Diversion Fund. We had 5 applicants. There was about $7,600 some left, so we split it up between the 5. Sound Good News got 2,000. Boys and Girls Club got 2,000. Spark got 2,000. Grant got 800, and Pearl City got $800. So,
All right, thank you. Moving on to Nursing Center, Ms. Baker, you have 3 items.
First item up is it Tim Whelan?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't have your microphone on. Go ahead.
First item up is this Stephenson County Area Senior Citizens Long-Term Care Review.
Okay, and did you say Mr. Whalen? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to comment a little bit. I sent a personal work study, I'll call it, versus a report, because after last month's meeting, and again, for those of you who don't know, the whole reason I'm back here is because we had grandparents that came into this issue 4 years ago, and we actually moved back from Michigan to take care of that situation. And as an anecdotal piece of that, they would not take my grandfather at Walnut Acres, and that's why they are both out at Liberty Village right now. Again, it's anecdotal because it was but it is my personal experience. So the report that I sent to the entire board, anyone in the public that you'd like to request it, just send me an email. I'd be happy to share it with you. Is it just a general look at the Stephenson County available options for senior care? Now, when I started on this board, that was the first question I asked: is what do we really need? Has anybody even really ever looked at that? And so, again, after last month, I said, well, what is available within 30 miles from Freeport for folks that are lower income people, right? Because I've heard constantly that Stephenson County Nursing Center is the only place they can go. Okay, so you go on Medicare.gov's website, there's 12 facilities, including in the Freeport area, that take Medicaid. Some are nonprofit, quite a few actually are, and they all have Medicaid beds. And the process of acceptance between Stephenson County Nursing Center and all of those facilities is exactly the same. They have to look at the actual risk they're taking on when they take somebody on with Medicaid. Period. We're not going to do that at Stephenson County Nursing Center without making sure we're actually going to get paid at some point. So there's a process that they all go through. Okay, now it is true that some have more Medicaid beds that they reserve than others. I'm not going to, I didn't get into that level of detail with each of these places. But the discussion that I put together lists every person that I spoke with, the date I spoke with them, their phone number, and the discussion points that we made. Okay, it is all factual information. You can call them yourself and double check my facts. If I missed something, I apologize. My intent was to inform this board more succinctly around the available care that's out there, because I don't think everybody knows everything that's available to our senior citizens. Now, through this process, there's a general staffing concern up more in the Freeport area. Some of the folks down south don't have the same issue with that. Most of these institutions are part of a larger organization, which is, in the industry is trending that way. Helios spoke to that issue when I asked him that a couple months ago. And it's going to be increasingly difficult to run that nursing center on our county dime, regardless whether we do or not, right? Add subsidy to it. As it goes forward, I believe, within the market that we're in, regardless of whether you want to or not. Now, there's been a census reduction. Everybody wants to blame COVID for that, but that's been trending down since 2015. Look at the numbers, please. It's not just because of COVID that's occurring. We've had a 2% population reduction in the county since 2010, according to the U.S. Census. And again, if SNC is the only place these Medicaid people can go, I would just simply ask the question, where are they? I hear all the time, well, it's because you're selling the place, or you're doing this, you're doing that. Okay, but if it's the only place they can go, who cares if we're selling it? That's where they got to go, right? I mean, if that's the case, help me. So anyway, financially, I remember we were talking about a report that Mrs. DeWall put together last month about the financial aspect of our nursing center since 2006, and that it was profitable. And I keep hearing these comments about the fact that it's so profitable, you know, and I understand what AR is. I understand what AP is. I've run a business. I've been in, you know, I've had a $40 million balance sheets in front of me and P&Ls. I get some of these numbers. And I'm sorry, but I don't agree that you can leave accounts receivable that are 8 months old and expect to get them someday. I don't buy that. We've written off over, what, $300,000, I think, since December. So, you know, when we voted, or when the county board put that organization into place, okay, and even in the 1970s, when subsequently this stipend was given to them of the $500,000 a year, Medicaid wasn't around at that time. Medicaid didn't come in until the 80s. So not only are we subsidizing it with county money, we're also subsidizing it with taxpayer dollars for every one of these Medicaid beds at all the institutions throughout the county, right? And I hadn't realized that. I didn't know when Medicaid started. I didn't know, you know, when any of this stuff went down. So please read through that. And again, it's informational, and hopefully it adds some perspective to this discussion. So just a couple other tidbits. You know, most of the 2023 tax subsidy has already been used, and we're still way underwater. It's just a struggle for me personally to see how this is gonna end. You know, one way or another, I don't see good things happening with this unless we can move it to I would hope, a quality institution that knows what they're doing. You have liability and capital repairs and concerns going forward. That's highlighted in there. And again, one of the things that I got today, which is interesting, I think, here's the current census in all these areas. This isn't even all of them. This is just some of them. Within, you know, a reasonable distance of Freeport. Manor Court, 108 out of 117, all beds are Medicaid approved. Again, they may not all go to the open folks, but St. Joe's is 99 out of 124 beds, 92 are Medicaid certified. Pearl Pavilion, 56 out of 109, all beds are Medicaid certified. Mount Carroll is 65 out of 72, all beds are Medicaid certified. Stockton is 29 out of 49, all beds are Medicaid certified. Alena is 67 out of 101, all beds are Medicaid certified. So there's 148 open beds just in those facilities, and that doesn't even list all the ones that I had in the report. Plus, when I look at Helios thing, you go out 50 miles, there's another 40 institutions that are out there. This market is being overserved right now, in my opinion. I can't believe we're even getting an offer for the place, to be honest with you. If I had $1.5 million to spend, I don't think I'd be putting my money in that. So bottom line is, if we have the opportunity to move this institution to a quality private entity that is in the nursing home business, and this board does not vote to do it, I believe then the result is squarely at the feet of those who didn't. Don't tell me we who want to put it in the hands of somebody who can manage this place don't care about people. I am here tonight because I care about people. So I get very upset about that when somebody says, you don't care about anybody because you want to sell the nursing. Give me a break, people. That is ridiculous. So my recommendation to this board, to our community as a whole, because I don't know if we're going to have the opportunity a year from now. And we can talk all we want about lawsuits this way and that way. We don't know what any of that stuff's going to happen. We may not have an opportunity to move this thing to a company that can manage it. This show is never going to end if we keep this thing. Too. That's another point. It just makes me ill every time I think about it. We spend an inordinate amount of time talking about this single institution every month. So I recommend we move this to private ownership where it can be managed by professionals without the taxpayers of Stephenson County having to pay extra to have it managed by professionals. And that is my summary. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Baker, can you please move on to your next item?
First up is approval of a contract with Pathos Health Imaging.
Is your microphone on?
Okay. First item up for approval is the contract with Pathos Health Imaging. This agreement is a benefit for both the residents and staff. This will allow residents in need to have a swallow test done on site
With that, I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Brandt. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. One no vote. Thank you. Ms. Baker, your final item.
Next up, approval is PELVIP. This is an agreement with the Respiratory Consulting Service. This agreement also offers on-site services. This will allow on-site assessments for residents with respiratory concerns. This will help in determining the appropriate respiratory care measures needed to keep the residents safe. This service is also needed. Not every resident will use this service. With that, I make a motion to approve.
There is a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Whalen, is there discussion? Mr. Jogerst.
Thank you, Chairman. What's the cost on this last one, this PEL? Is that per visit or something?
I do not have that. If TCM has that information.
It's not, it's as needed.
As needed, so, yeah.
Okay.
Could you repeat what Mr. Filippo just said so everyone can hear it?
It's an as needed service.
Thank you. So you made the motion to approve, and is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Hart, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Any other information on your committee, Mrs. Baker?
Yep, sir. Census is at 48, and then I would like to give a shout out to the Nursing Center team for increasing the star rating to 2.
Okay, thank you. Move on to planning and development, Mr. Frick.
Mr. Chairman, I've had no light on it. I wanted to address something.
I'm sorry, I did not see it up here. Go ahead.
This was in relation to the report that Mr. Whalen just gave, and I, just in the way of some additional information and some questions, I had emailed everybody on the board a study from Dartmouth, and this was just a short summary about it. And what this is studied is what the effects of going from a public or a not-for-profit to a for-profit company. And the results have been absolutely dismal in terms of care. And as far as all of these things we're talking about money and people, and both sides of that equation are important, I think Mr. Whalen would have to agree with me that when this goes into private hands, whether it's for-profit or not-for-profit even, there are only a couple of ways that we can, that anybody can make this operating cost and the operating margin better than it has been. We can either increase net resident revenue, and I don't think there's any possibility to do that, given the fact that in terms of Medicaid, as a county home, we get the greatest amount for Medicaid at $373.98, which was a 60% increase this past year. The only other thing that anybody can do in terms of making this a better operating picture and a better financial picture is to decrease total nursing staffing and specifically to decrease high-skilled RN staffing, which is, it can't do anything other than result in a decreased quality of care. And I would submit that this has been very subjectively researched, extensively researched. There's a great body of this information out there. And I really want to stay focused on what is the best thing for the people. We keep saying that. The best thing for the people is providing the best care. I think we have the opportunity to provide the best care, particularly if we would work better with transitional care management, which I don't think we have optimized. I think we can achieve those goals. Also, we had a meeting last night in my district, which was just a monthly community constituent meeting that we have. And this just seems to be an overwhelming, popular program and facility with most of the voters here. At least in my district, in District D, and we have most of the nursing homes and the assisted living facilities. A very nice lady came in, and this was completely unsolicited. I had no idea this was happening, with 360 petitions in favor of Walnut Acres and for keeping it. So I just wanted to honor her effort and bring that in. I'd be happy to submit this to the chair at some point.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr.
You're welcome. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Hadley.
Yes, I want to follow up with Mr. Whalen's presentation. I want to thank him for all the hard work. I always like to recognize board members that put hard work into putting facts together and everything. And, you know, he says that, you know, we want to privatize and put it in professional hands. The only thing I got to say is that we have a professional group, TMC, working out there right now. So, and I appreciate all the hard work that professional group does. Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to planning and development, Mr. Frick.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to commend Mr. Helms and Mr. Whalen for completely reading the resolutions. I'm not going to do that. We do have a resolution for an application for dollars for boat access area development at Aiton's Landing. Basically what this is doing is making Stephenson County the lead organization to get the process started. All of those dollars that are included in the resolution are either taken care of by the Friends of the Pecatonica or access to dollars grants from the funds that we already provide for them. This could be up to $200,000 for improving that landing, and this is just the start of the process for the application. With that, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Just for clarification, did you say you would entertain a motion to approve?
I'm sorry. I am making a motion to approve.
Thank you.
And I second it.
Mr. Hadley seconds. Is there any discussion on this? I just have a quick point of clarification or question. If this grant is approved, do we know how much the county would be responsible for?
Only for the $2,000 grant award fee that you have to provide to them, and those would come out of dollars that are already budgeted.
Thank you very much. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Mr. Frick, anything else out of planning and development?
No, that's all I have at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Public Works, Mr. Newton, you did chair the meeting this month. Oh, let me get your microphone on. I apologize. Go ahead.
Thank you. Motion to approve resolution for bridge covering Cane Grove Creek, and I make that motion.
Okay, is there a second? By Mr. Jogurst. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there any information out of Public Works, Mr. Newton?
No additional information.
Thank you very much. We'll then move on to public comment. Please come to the podium, state your name. You'll have 3 minutes.
Filippo, Transitional Care Management. A little fact checking, just again. I believe the comment was made that we had $36,000 in payments to a company for 2021. During the last hour, we were able to check that. Our records show it's $36. It's one invoice of $36.88, I think, from McKesson. So if we actually do owe $36,000, please let us know. That's number one. Number two, I keep hearing the comments that the nursing home from a financial perspective is underwater. And that couldn't be further from the truth. if you had a outside company come in and value the operation, they would look at the 800,000 or so in payables, but they'd also look at the 1.6 million in good receivables. And they'd come to the conclusion, very basic math, there's more involved. You've got land, you've got equipment, but 1.6 million minus 800,000 to me is a positive number. It's a positive 800,000. And I'm sure 100% of CPAs would agree with that. I could even get 4 to 5 dentists to agree with that. The last thing I just want to say, I don't want to debate anything here, but since I do want the board to hear this before the next meeting, as long as you have 30 days to decide what direction you're going. The current rate at the nursing home is about $374 a day. A private buyer coming in would be getting $210 a day. You do the math on 50 residents, that's a $250,000 a month cut in income. How are they going to make that up? Just something to ponder. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Very quickly, Gerald Pedroza again. I'm going to come to the next meeting and refocus and address the issue about that Galena event and how it could impact on the children in this community. 2 very quick items. Are any of you aware of the wrestling match that was going on all last year at the Winnebago County Board meetings regarding the Winnebago County Nursing Home? If you're not aware of that, I would encourage you to check in with somebody on the committee or on the county board, look at the minutes, look at what they were working with. And how come there were multiple private companies that were falling all over each other to buy that county nursing home in Rockford? 2, there's a gentleman on the county board here who might be very much aware of this. In Apple River, Illinois, I live 2.5 miles down the road from there in the country. There was a beautiful little schoolhouse. It sold at an auction for $34,000. I got so outraged, I started doing some research. I called some friends who are engineers who work in the industry constructing schoolhouses. That schoolhouse in Apple River, that little schoolhouse, that is an eyesore now, that's falling apart, to replace that in 1990 was $1,600,000. So I would suggest to you all, you have an extraordinary investment in this nursing home. Do you have any idea what it costs to replace it? Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Laura Youngblood. First off, if you're ever curious how much per household residents of Stephenson County contribute to Walnut Acres, it's $25.97 per household per year. Taking into consideration demographics within Stephenson County, 23% of the population here is 65 and older. I'm really glad Mike Filippo also brought up the difference between price per bed facilities. And one of the reasons why some of your Medicare, Medicaid stated bed facilities aren't filled to capacity because they wouldn't make a profit. A lot of times, too, you will have some of these facilities not be able to take the level of care that is needed for the resident. So you also need to take into the consideration when you are looking at a buyer is if that facility would be able to take on the same level of care as Walnut Acres. Kudos on the research in a 30-mile radius, but also consider traveling 30 miles to a facility is a luxury. It's a luxury to commute, to have a car. It's luxury to have time. And when it comes to end-of-life care occurring, 30 miles is too much time to travel. Independent facilities in the Freeport area, in Freeport alone, that offer 65 years and older. I'll just rattle them off really quick. It's Heritage Woods, Oakley, Courts, Wind Prairie, Prairie Ridge, Willow Park Apartments, Rolling Prairie, and Westport Village. This is a population of people that will likely need some level of skilled or total care within the next 1 to 12 years, taking into consideration that life expectancy is 77 years. I also want to take into consideration too, and I want to point out to people who are listening, that our concerned citizens did leave. They did not stay for the entirety of the meeting, just like last month. All right, on a separate note, talking about the mill race build out, I don't know if it's taken into consideration working with Ingrown Farms, but they did leave 25 employees go, and production has been cut in half. So I'm a little concerned in how that partnership with Stephenson County will continue to develop mill race. That is all. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Hi. Excuse me, Ed Klein. Since I had cancer, I get all this phlegm and stuff, and it's no fun, but I'll keep trying. Tim, I absolutely don't believe you don't care. I do believe we're not on the same level as far as communication goes. And I think going forward, something's got to change that way. Somehow we have to get to a common ground and understand what the priorities of the county are. A couple things that you didn't get quite right. The $500,000 levy was actually a referendum in 1998. So it just took place. And at that point, the citizens said they needed another $500,000. Now, this is 20 years later, and I don't think the same dollars from 1998 would do much today. So that levy really, there should really be a lot more to support the nursing center. The other thing is that you're way off on is the reason for the census decline. I really wish everybody here would go to Google and look up Darnell Fortney. There's all kinds of articles about it. But he got a $365,000 settlement because of how horribly he was harassed by the present board at the time. And they had to fire him because the insurance company said fire him, which I think I would have gotten our insurance company. He did nothing wrong. He started in 2008, and the increase you see in census is because of Darnell. He was here from 2008 to 2014. He got fired in 2014. For a couple years, it still kind of increased a little bit, and then it fell off. And that obviously is because of the administrators that were here. We can't talk to that. We can talk to right now that we did have a really good administrator named Shannon Harris, and she did file an EEOC complaint because of the way she was treated by our treasurer, by our chairman, and by our administrator. That will happen. That will go and get resolved somewhat. She has not done the interview yet. It won't be till August because they're so far behind. But we have to ask as a board, not me, you have to ask as a board, is this the way you want to run your county? You really have to ask why a competent woman who was an administrator of that nursing home moved out of here, moved back south when she had all kinds of support from TCN, but she didn't get the support from the board. There's a real problem that really needs to be addressed, and you just by shutting your eyes, you're not going to find anything out. Last point is, as far as the building goes, I think you added up $300,000. On a 50-year-old building, if I was to buy a 50-year-old building, I would expect to spend $200,000-$300,000. That's just routine maintenance. This is what happens when we have stuff. There's no reason to sell it.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Anyone else?
Again, my name is Alana. First, I'd like to address Mr. Tim. And I feel like a lot of people share the same views. We have been saying that a lot of people don't care. And I see that that's not the case, but I would use the analogy of you see a man that is shivering and you give him food. That helped. That was a very nice and kind gesture, but that man needed a coat. We are missing the point. And it's the same analogy that is used to understand Black Lives Matter. There is a house that is on fire, and the fire team needs to go to that house. When the fire team shows up, they don't
hose the entire block down. They hose the house that needs the help. And so that is what we need to be focusing on. What is needed? What do these people, these residents need? This facility has not been the best facility. I did Hoya in 2016 and I had my clinicals there. And it was a scary facility when I was going. It was not well taken care of, and it wasn't because of the workers, and it definitely wasn't because of the residents who needed the care. It was because of the administrative team, the people who were making the decisions that we had to answer to. I've been a CNA for 6 years, and every single time I step foot into a new nursing home, no matter where it is always the people above that never held a medical license or degree in their lives, making all of these decisions that we have to answer to and that we have to put our residents through because you guys are making these decisions and not realizing the effect that it has on not only the workers, but the people who are literally losing their lives, declining because of these decisions. You move an Alzheimer patient to another floor, and it is completely a different person just from that move to another floor, just to the room or to another side of the room. It is horrible. And so we're talking about uprooting an entire facility and making it private, and we don't know what we're going to be able to do, have no control over anything. What happens to the people who are being affected by this? No one's saying that you don't care, but you're not caring in the right way. We need the well-being of the people to be at the very front of this conversation. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, there is no new business. Is there a motion to adjourn? By Mr. Bush, is there a second? By Mr. Hart, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
You guys okay with meeting Monday?